The darkness had weight here, as if it had been laid down in courses like the stone. It pressed against Eddard Stark's eyelids when he tried to sleep, and when he opened them it pressed again, offering the same dim answer. Walls slick with seep water, iron bars beaded with rust, the slow drip from some unseen crack that counted the hours with a patient, mocking tongue. He had known cold before, real cold, the kind that took flesh if you gave it the chance. Winterfell's stones could bite, and the wind off the wolfswood could flay. But the black cells did not bite. They smothered. They took the world and held it under until breathing became a choice and thought became a struggle. His leg had swollen where the spear had driven through, the wound now a dull, constant fire. When the jailer brought broth, it was thin and half-soured. When the maester came, it was with a purse of powders and averted eyes. Eddard Stark had learned to judge the day by footsteps and the temper of the silence. The Red Keep was never truly quiet, not even down here. Sound filtered through the rock. A distant clatter of chains, a far-off creak that might be a door or a man's bones under questioning. Once, twice, the muffled burst of laughter that did not belong in a place built for misery. He had thought of his daughters until the thoughts became knives. Sansa Stark's face, pale with fear but still trying to be brave. Arya Stark's fierce scowl, the way she would look at him as if daring him to call her little lady again. He had tried to build a ladder out of vows and law, rung by rung, to reach them. But here, vows were only words, and law was whatever wore a crown. He was turning the thought of Catelyn Stark over like a coin, wondering whether she would do the wise thing or the wild thing, when the iron door sighed. Not the scrape and bang of a jailer come to jeer, but the soft persuasion of hinges oiled and tended. Eddard Stark lifted his head. Light spilled in, thin and trembling. The man who entered carried a hooded lantern and wore his perfumed softness like armor. Varys moved as if the air itself made room. Behind him came no guard, no chain of keys. Only him, the spider, with his plump hands and mournful mouth. "My lord," Varys said quietly, and the words felt wrong down here, as if courtesy itself had to stoop to fit the ceiling. "You look thinner." Eddard Stark's throat was dry. He did not waste it on nicety. "Where are my daughters?" Varys's eyes flicked, quick and bright as a candle flame in a draft. "Safe," he said, and then, because he had learned that Eddard Stark did not accept soft answers, added, "As safe as they can be in a court that has forgotten mercy." Forgotten? Eddard Stark's chains clinked when he shifted. Mercy was never taught. Varys sighed as if the air itself were heavy with tragedy. Oh, it was taught, but lessons are easily misplaced when boys become kings and men who should counsel them prefer to flatter. Eddard Stark looked at him. Really looked. Varys's face was smooth, but there were shadows under the eyes. Not fear. Varys did not fear in the way other men did. Calculation, perhaps. The spider measured peril like a man measures rain, deciding when to bring in the grain. "Why are you here?" Eddard Stark asked. "To see whether I've broken?" Varys gave a tiny shake of his head. "To see whether you will bend." Eddard Stark barked a humorless laugh. "You mistake me for a reed." "I mistake you for a father," Varys said softly now, and the words struck harder than any jailer's fist. "And for a man whose honor has been used as a rope." Eddard Stark felt the old anger flare. Honor. Robert Baratheon had trusted him. He had trusted Robert. And in the end, trust had been a blade turned in his hand. "I did what was right," Eddard Stark said, though the words sounded thin against the damp stone. "Did you?" Varys held up the lantern slightly, letting its light pick out the cracks in the wall, the moss, the crawling things. "Right for the realm? Right for House Stark? Right for the girls?" Eddard Stark did not answer. The silence between them was long enough to be dangerous. Varys took a step closer, and his voice lowered further. "You will be taken from here soon. There will be a platform, a crowd, and the smell of summer heat on sweat and fear. You will be asked to speak. Perhaps you will speak. And then I will take the black," Eddard Stark said. He knew the bargain that had been offered: confess treason, name Joffrey Baratheon as rightful king, and be allowed to live in disgrace on the wall. It was an ugly mercy. Yet for Sansa Stark, it might be mercy enough. Varys's lips pursed. Ah, that. Eddard Stark's eyes narrowed. What of it? The Queen wishes it, Varys admitted. She thinks it will quiet the wolves. The girl Sansa Stark will be more pliable if she believes her father still lives. And there are those at court who think the wall is far enough to put your honor out of reach. Eddard Stark leaned forward as far as chains allowed. And the king? A small pause. A flicker, the tiniest crack in Varys's mask. The boy, Varys said carefully, is less predictable. Eddard Stark tasted iron, though there was no blood in his mouth. He had seen Joffrey Baratheon on the Iron Throne. Smug, cruel, pleased with his own power like a child pleased with a torch in a barn. A boy with no father's hand on his shoulder. No mother's shame to stop him, no conscience at all. You came to warn me, Eddard Stark said. Varys's shoulders lifted in a soft shrug. I came to offer an alternative. The lantern light trembled as if it heard the word and did not like it. Eddard Stark's voice came out rough. There is no alternative that keeps my honor and my daughters. Varys's gaze held his. My lord, honor is a fine thing, but it does not feed children. It does not lift a blade from a girl's throat. It does not open an iron door. Eddard Stark's jaw tightened. Speak plainly. Bah! Rhys leaned in, and the scent of lavender and sweat mingled with the smell of wet stone. There are ways out of the Red Keep that are not on any map, he murmured. Passages cut for kings who wish to visit their lovers unseen, and for queens who wish to flee unseen. There are doors behind walls and tunnels under floors. I know them all. Eddard Stark stared. You would smuggle me out. Varys did not smile. I would keep you alive. Eddard Stark's chains rattled when he shook his head. If I vanish, they will kill Sansa Stark. They will kill her, Varys corrected gently. If you die on that platform, the boy king will do it in a fit of spite, or the queen will do it in a fit of necessity. Your life is the last restraint on their hands. You must understand, Lord Eddard, your death is not the end of their cruelty. It is the beginning. Eddard Stark felt his stomach turn. He pictured Sansa Stark in the Queen's grip and Arya Stark, wherever she was, alone in a city that ate children. And if I live? Eddard Stark asked, hating himself for the hope that leaped up like a trapped thing. Varys's eyes gleamed. If you live, you become a bargaining chip, a sword that is not yet broken, a wolf not yet skinned and nailed to a gate. Your son Robb Stark has called his banners. Did you not know? When Eddard Stark's face changed, Varys pressed on. The north moves. The Riverlands burn. War is already here, my lord. It would be a shame to waste you. You want something, Eddard Stark said. Varys's hands spread, palms up, as if in prayer. I want the realm to survive the boy king. I want fewer widows and fewer orphans. I want a war that ends, not a war that eats itself until the bones are picked clean. Eddard Stark almost laughed at that. You want too much. We all want too much, Varys said. Some of us simply admit it. Eddard Stark's mind raced, but the chains slowed it, as if even thought had to drag iron behind it. He pictured escape, air, open sky, the smell of pine, and then he pictured Sansa Stark's eyes, large and frightened, the way she had looked at him the last time he saw her, as if he were the only wall between her and the abyss. What would you have me do? Eddard Stark asked. Varys's voice was soft as dust. Trust me. Eddard Stark's laugh came out as a rasp. I trusted Peter Baelish. Varys's eyes did not flinch. And now you are here. For a moment, the lantern's flame seemed to bow, as if listening. Then Varys said, If you remain, you die. If you escape, you may yet save them. Not with honor, not with law, with leverage. Eddard Stark closed his eyes. He had always believed that a man's word was his worth. Yet here, worth had been measured in coin and blood. He thought of Robert Baratheon's dying whisper, the weight of the king's hand on his shoulder. He thought of the letter he had written to Stannis Baratheon and never sent. He thought of the realm, so certain in its structure, so fragile in its truth. When he opened his eyes, the darkness had not lightened, but something in him had shifted, the way ice shifts before it cracks. "If you betray me," Eddard Stark said, "I will haunt you." Varys's mouth twitched, almost amused, almost sad. "My lord, I have been haunted for years." He raised the lantern and let its light fill the cell, as if to mark the place one last time. "Do you hear the water?" he asked.
Eddard Stark listened.
Beneath the drip and the distant noise, there was another sound. Faint, persistent, like breath. Water moving in a channel. Varys nodded at his face. "There is a way," he whispered, "but you must choose it now. Once the day comes, the walls will have eyes. The queen's patience will fray. The boy king's temper will do what temper does."
Eddard Stark swallowed.
The choice was poison either way. He could die with honor and leave his daughters to mercy that did not exist. Or he could live, break his vows, and fight like a man who had learned that wolves could not survive on dignity alone. He looked at Varys. "If I go," he said, "my daughters will still be in danger," Varys said at once. "But you will be alive to bargain, to threaten, to trade. You will be alive to make men tremble again." Eddard Stark's hands curled against the chains until his wrists burned. "Then do it," he said, "if you truly mean it." Varys exhaled, long and slow, as if he had been holding his breath since the day Robert Baratheon died. "Very well," he murmured. "We must be careful. The Red Keep is full of ears. Even the stones listen." He turned to go, and the lantern light pulled away, leaving Eddard Stark in dimness once more. At the threshold, Varys paused. "My lord," he said without looking back, "there is one more thing." "What?" Eddard Stark asked. Varys's voice was barely more than a thread. "When you step into the dark passage, do not speak. Not to me, not to anyone. The tunnels have more mouths than you think." Then he was gone, and the iron door side shut, and the black cells took Eddard Stark back into their heavy embrace. But the darkness felt different now. It had a door in it. Varys climbed without hurry, because hurry was how men died. The stair was narrow, carved for a king who wished to slip unseen from Maegor's holdfast to some hidden pleasure, and it wound through stone that still remembered fire. The air grew drier as he rose, scented faintly of old smoke, as if Balerion the Black Dread had exhaled here once and the breath had never fully left. He paused where the stair met a slit of corridor behind a tapestry. Some heroic scene of Aegon's conquest. Dragonfire painted in reds so bright they seemed wet. Varys let the tapestry fall back into place. The castle's noise resumed, faint and muffled. The clink of armor, the murmur of courtiers, a woman's laugh too sharp to be honest. In the shadowed niche nearby, a child waited. The boy's head had been shaved, not by a barber but by necessity, and his eyes were too old for his face. He did not fidget. He did not speak. He simply watched Varys with the devotion of a starving dog who had been fed. Varys crouched, careful of his robes. "Have you seen the queen?" he asked softly. The boy nodded once. His finger pointed upward and then toward the east wing, where the queen's apartments lay. "And the king?" Varys asked. The boy's eyes darted, one quick flicker of fear. Then his finger pointed again, toward the throne room. Varys sighed. "Always somewhere loud," he murmured, as if speaking of weather. He reached into the folds of his sleeve and drew out a small sweet cake, wrapped in cloth. The boy's eyes widened. Varys placed it in his palm like a coin in a beggar's hand. The boy did not devour it at once. He clutched it as if the act of holding it proved it was real. "Listen," Varys whispered. "There will be a wagon tomorrow with dead men in it. It will go from the Great September's yard to the river gate. When you see it, you will follow. Not close, like a shadow. If any man asks you what you do, you will say you are looking for your mother." The boy nodded. "And if any man takes you," Varys continued, voice soft as dust, "you will bite his fingers and run. Do you understand?" The boy's lips parted. a sound almost forming. Then he swallowed it and nodded again. "Good," Varys said. He patted the boy's cheek gently, as if he were any kindly uncle. "You are clever. Clever boys live." He rose and moved down the hidden corridor, his slippers making no sound. Behind the walls, the red keep's inner veins branched and twisted, passages intersecting with drains and forgotten rooms. Here and there, Varys had marked a stone with a tiny scratch, a map only he and his birds could read. At a bend, he stopped and pressed his palm to the stone. The rock was cool. He could feel, through it, the faint vibration of life. A guard step, the shift of a serving girl's tray. Above him, men plodded over wine. Below him, men screamed. He thought of Eddard Stark's face in the lantern light. Honor stubborn as a nail, a dangerous thing to try to bend. Varys did not save men out of kindness. Kindness was a luxury. Varys had been stripped of luxuries long ago. He saved men because saved men could be used. Saved men could become fulcrums. Saved men could become stories, and stories could move armies. Eddard Stark was a story the North believed in. A dead Eddard Stark would become a martyr, and martyrs were uncontrollable. A living Eddard Stark, hidden, wounded, furious, could be directed like a knife. But he had to be careful. The Queen was not a fool. Cersei Lannister would sniff out weakness the way a wolf sniffed blood. And Peter Baelish was worse, because he smiled while he sharpened his teeth. Varys slipped through a narrow door into a storage chamber that smelled of dust and old linen. A single candle burned on a table. A man waited there, lean and watchful, his face half in shadow. The man wore the plain garb of a jailer, keys at his belt. His eyes were hard. Ruggan's eyes. Ruggan was Varys's disguise, but Ruggan was also a man now, in the sense that men were what others believed them to be. Varys had worn the jailer's face so long that some guards would have sworn they had shared ale with him. "Is it done?" the man asked, and the voice was not Varys's soft, courtly murmur. It was flat, bored, the sound of a man who spent his days among chains and rot. Varys let his own voice settle into that shape. "Not yet," he said, "but the pieces move." The man, Ruggan, nodded toward the table. There lay a set of clothes, coarse wool, stained, smelling of old sweat. There lay also a razor, a pot of dark dye, and a bundle of cut hair tied with twine. Varys's gaze lingered on the hair. "Whose?" he asked. "A northerner," Ruggan said. "One of the men they threw down there when the city watch went hunting for Stark friends. Big fellow, brown hair. We can make him look close." "Close is not enough," Varys murmured. Ruggan's mouth twitched. With blood and fear, close becomes truth. Varys did not answer. He thought again of the platform at the Great September, of the crowd, of the boy king's gleeful cruelty. The plan relied on indifference as much as deception. Men saw what they expected. If they expected Eddard Stark to die, they would see him die. But the Queen might look closer. "There must be a hood," Varys said at last, in Ruggan's voice, and he hated how necessary it was. A heavy cloak, his face down. "Keep the Queen's eyes on the girl." Ruggan grunted. "That will be easy." Varys turned the thought over. Easy. Nothing was easy in a castle built by Maegor the Cruel. Yet the very cruelty of the place had created loopholes. Kings who feared assassination built tunnels. Queens who feared exposure built secret doors. Fear was a mason's tool. "There is another matter," Varys said. "The head." Ruggan's gaze sharpened. "A riot," he suggested. "A crowd can do many things." Varys's mind leapt. A riot could be arranged. Not a great one. Not enough to threaten the court's safety, but enough confusion to let the head vanish. Enough to someone steal it. Enough for the Queen to blame the small folk and move on. "Yes," Varys said slowly. "A riot." Ruggan gave him a look that might have been amusement, if the man had remembered how. "Your little birds?" Varys's lips softened. "My little birds." He left Ruggan then, slipping back into the secret corridors. Above, the court continued its dances. Below, Eddard Stark waited in darkness. And between, Varys spun threads, anchoring them to every crack in the castle, every fear in every heart. He moved toward the Queen's apartments, toward the place where soft rugs covered sharp knives. He needed to look at Cersei Lannister's face and decide how much she suspected. He needed to look at Joffrey Baratheon's face and decide how much cruelty could fit into a boy. He needed to look at Sansa Stark, too, because she would be the rope, and Varys could not afford it to snap in the wrong place. The Queen's chambers smelled of crushed roses and hot wax, and the air was thick with the kind of sweetness that tried to mask rot. Cersei Lannister sat near the window where the light was best, because she liked to see clearly. Her hair, gold as a new coin, had been braided in a crown that said without words that she considered herself the realm's true monarch. Her fingers toyed with a goblet, and the ruby wine within caught the sunlight and pretended to be blood. Sansa Stark stood before her like a lamb before a butcher who had not yet decided where to cut. The girl's hands were clasped so tightly that her knuckles shone white. She wore a gown in soft blue that was meant to suggest innocence, and the fabric made her look younger than she was. Or perhaps fear did that. Cersei Lannister lifted a hand and, with lazy cruelty, caught Sansa Stark's chin between two fingers. She turned the girl's face as if inspecting a horse. "So," the Queen said, voice warm as silk, "your father is stubborn." Sansa Stark's throat moved. "My father is loyal, Your Grace." Cersei Lannister's smile flashed, sharp and bright. "Oh, my sweet summer child," she murmured. "Loyalty is a word men use when they want you to stand still while they climb over your corpse." Sansa Stark's eyes glistened. She did not cry. She had learned that tears only amused them. Peter Baelish lounged near the window, one hand idly stroking the mockingbird brooch at his throat. He watched the scene like a man watching a play he had paid for. His smile never quite reached his eyes. Varys stood with his hands folded before him, his posture humble, his face concerned. The spider made concern into an art. He could drape it over himself like a cloak. "My queen," Varys said softly. "Perhaps the girl should not be pressed so hard. She has suffered enough." Cersei Lannister released Sansa Stark's chin and leaned back, studying Varys. "Have you grown tender in your old age?" she asked. "Or is it simply that you enjoy protecting little birds?" Varys let a small, self-deprecating smile touch his mouth. "I enjoy peace," he said, "and peace is best served when we do not make enemies needlessly." Cersei Lannister's gaze flicked to Sansa Stark, then back. "Needlessly," she repeated. "Do you consider Eddard Stark an unnecessary enemy?" Varys's eyes lowered, as if in modesty. "I consider him a dangerous symbol." Peter Baelish chuckled softly. "A dead symbol is often more dangerous," he drawled. "Men love to die for their stories. It gives them something to talk about while they starve." Sansa Stark flinched at the sound of Peter Baelish's voice. Varys noted it. The girl did not know why she feared him. She only knew that his eyes felt like hands. Cersei Lannister swirled her wine. "The High Septon expects a confession," she said. "If Lord Eddard is wise, he will give it. The wall is cold, but it is not the grave." Peter Baelish's smile widened a fraction. "Wise men are rare," he said, "and Lord Eddard was never wise." Varys kept his face smooth. He had to speak as if he believed the plan still held. "Lord Eddard loves his daughters," he said. "That is not wisdom, perhaps, but it is leverage." At the word, Sansa Stark's head lifted a fraction. Hope, small and desperate, tried to bloom. Cersei Lannister noticed, of course. The Queen's smile turned to frost. "Do not mistake my patience for kindness," she told the girl. "You will do as you are told, and you will smile while you do it. Your father will confess. He will name my son as rightful king, and then you will be rewarded with his continued breathing."
Sansa Stark swallowed.
"And my sister?" she whispered. The question came out before she could stop it. Cersei Lannister's eyes narrowed. "Your sister," she said, tasting the words like something sour, "is a little wild thing. If she is found, she will be brought to heel. If she is not found, well, Flea Bottom has sharp corners. Peter Baelish's gaze flicked, and for a moment his smile faltered. The girl Arya Stark was missing, and missing pieces made even Peter Baelish uneasy. Varys tilted his head, pretending worry. In truth, Arya Stark's absence was a thread that could unravel the whole tapestry. If Arya Stark lived free, she could become proof of Stark's survival, a blade in unexpected hands. He had birds searching. They had found rumors. A small girl in boy's clothing, a needle-thin sword, a man of the Night's Watch asking questions. But rumors were not a grip. Cersei Lannister stood, and her skirts whispered. She moved to Sansa Stark again, but this time she did not touch her. She circled her, like a cat deciding whether to play. "You will write to your brother," the Queen said. "You will tell him to lay down his arms, to come south and swear fealty. You will tell him his father has confessed and will take the Black. You will tell him the North's rebellion will only bring fire."
Sansa Stark, lips parted. Robb Stark will.
Cersei Lannister's hand snapped out. Not a slap, worse. 2 fingers, sharp and quick, against Sansa Stark's mouth. It was a gesture that said, "Silence, little thing. You do not speak of what you do not control." "You will call him King Joffrey Baratheon," Cersei Lannister said softly. "You will remember your place."
Sansa Stark nodded, trembling.
Peter Baelish's voice slid in like oil. "The Queen is generous," he said. "She offers your father life. Many would not." Varys watched Sansa Stark's eyes flicker. Fear, confusion, a desperate need to believe. The girl wanted to be good, because she had been taught that goodness was rewarded. She had not yet learned that goodness was a coin counterfeiter spent freely. "My queen," Varys said. "There is one complication." Cersei Lannister's gaze snapped to him. "Always," she said. "Speak." Varys chose his words like a man choosing stones to cross a river. "The boy king is eager. He desires spectacle. He desires to show strength." Cersei Lannister's mouth tightened. "He will do as he is told." Peter Baelish's smile turned sly. "Will he?" he murmured. Cersei Lannister's eyes flashed. "Yes," she said, but the certainty rang too loud. Varys bowed his head. "Of course," he said, and he let it go. He had planted the thought. That was enough. Cersei Lannister dismissed Sansa Stark with a flick of her fingers, as if shooing a fly. Guards escorted the girl out, and her blue skirts vanished like a scrap of sky swallowed by stone. When the door closed, Cersei Lannister exhaled. The Queen's mask slipped for a heartbeat. Tiredness, anger, fear most of all. Not fear of death. Cersei Lannister feared humiliation. She feared losing control. Peter Baelish stepped closer, his voice low. "You should consider," he said. "What happens if the boy decides to make his own show?" Cersei Lannister's hand tightened on her goblet. "He will not," she said. Varys lowered his gaze, hiding the thought that flickered behind his eyes. He might, and if he did, the realm would bleed, and Varys would need Eddard Stark alive more than ever. Cersei Lannister turned to Varys. "Find the girl Arya Stark," she commanded, "and keep Lord Eddard in hand. If he is to confess, he must live long enough to do it." Varys bowed. "As you wish, my queen." He left them then, slipping from the chamber like a shadow. Behind him, he heard Cersei Lannister's voice, sharp, commanding, and Peter Baelish's softer reply, the purr of a man who always found ways to make other people's fears profitable. In the corridor, Varys allowed himself one breath of honest air. The plan was a thread stretched over a pit. One careless touch and it would snap. He moved faster now, though his slippers still made no sound. He had to reach the black cells again, and he had to reach them before the boy king's temper made a decision that could not be undone. The throne room was a cavern of heat and steel. The Iron Throne itself was a monstrous thing, all jagged edges and welded blades, a reminder that power was not meant to be comfortable. King Joffrey Baratheon sat upon it like a boy climbing a pile of knives, his legs too short to rest his feet properly, his posture forced into imitation of authority. His crown sat a little askew. Someone would have corrected it if they had dared. No one dared. At the foot of the dais, Sandor Clegane stood like a dark statue, helmet tucked under one arm. His burned face was half in shadow, half in torchlight, the scarred skin pulling his mouth into a permanent sneer. He did not look at the king with love. He looked at him with the weary contempt of a man chained to a cruel child. Janos Slynt, Lord Commander of the City Watch, stood near with his gold cloaks, their breastplates bright, their eyes wary. Courtiers lined the hall like flowers around a carrion feast, smiling too much, bowing too quickly. Varys hovered at the edge, listening to everything, appearing to hear nothing. A petition was being read, some minor dispute about land near the Blackwater, but King Joffrey Baratheon's attention drifted like smoke. He tapped the arm of the throne with his fingers, impatient. His gaze roamed the hall, hunting amusement. "Enough," the king said suddenly, cutting the petitioner off. His voice cracked slightly, betraying his youth. He scowled as if offended by his own weakness. "Boring." The petitioner went pale and fell silent. King Joffrey Baratheon leaned forward. "When will they bring me Lord Eddard?" he demanded. "I want to hear him beg." A ripple went through the hall. Some courtiers smiled, eager to share the king's cruelty. Others lowered their eyes, ashamed or afraid. Varys felt the thread tighten. Grand Maester Pycelle, white beard trembling, cleared his throat. "Your Grace," he wheezed. "Lord Eddard will be brought to the Great September on the morrow as the Queen." "On the morrow," King Joffrey Baratheon repeated, rolling the words around his mouth like a sweet. "Good." He looked down at Sandor Clegane. "You will stand beside me," he ordered. "I want them all to see my strength." Sandor Clegane's eyes flicked up, and for a moment something like disgust crossed his face. He bowed anyway, because he was a dog, and dogs obeyed, even when they hated their master. "As you command," Sandor Clegane said. King Joffrey Baratheon grinned. "And Island Pain," he added, and the name sent another quiet shiver through the hall. "I want my justice there." The king's justice, mute, expressionless, a blade in human form, would be there, of course. That was expected. Varys's mind leapt ahead, measuring the distance from expectation to deception. Peter Baelish stepped forward from the line of courtiers, his smile bright. "Your Grace," he said smoothly, "a public confession will do wonders. It will show the realm your mercy." King Joffrey Baratheon tilted his head. "Mercy," he said as if tasting something he did not like. "Why should I be merciful to a traitor?" Peter Baelish's smile did not falter. "Because mercy makes you loved," he said, "and loved kings have fewer knives pointed at their backs." King Joffrey Baratheon's eyes narrowed. "I don't need love," he said. "I have fear." Varys watched Peter Baelish's expression flicker, just for a heartbeat. Then it was gone, replaced by flattering admiration. "Of course, Your Grace," Peter Baelish said. "Fear is effective." King Joffrey Baratheon's gaze swept the hall, hungry. "When Lord Eddard confesses," he said loudly, "I will decide what to do with him. Perhaps I will send him to the wall. Perhaps I will send his head to Winterfell." The hall held its breath. Varys felt his stomach tighten. Queen Regent Cersei Lannister was not present, but her influence was in every corner. Varys imagined her at this moment, perhaps with a cup of wine, perhaps with clenched hands, trying to control a boy who had inherited Robert Baratheon's temper and none of Robert Baratheon's occasional generosity. Varys stepped forward slightly, just enough to be seen. He bowed. "Your Grace," he said gently. "The realm watches. A wise king chooses the path that brings peace." King Joffrey Baratheon's eyes latched onto him like a hawk on prey. "Peace is boring," he snapped. "You always talk about peace. I want to see blood." A murmur, half laughter, half fear. Sandor Clegane's jaw tightened. Varys spread his hands. "Blood is easy," he said softly. But blood has a habit of calling for more blood. King Joffrey Baratheon leaned back, clearly amused. Then let it call, he said. I am the king. Let them come. For a moment Varys saw it, truly saw it. The child sitting on a pile of blades, grinning at the idea of war because he had never been hurt by it. Boys played at soldiers until real men died and real women screamed. Varys bowed. As you command, he said. He stepped back into the shadows, but his mind was a storm. If King Joffrey Baratheon chose death on that platform, the plan had to be ready. Not tomorrow. Now. He slipped away as the court resumed its hollow business, the hall's laughter and murmurs closing over him like water. In the corridor, the air felt cooler, but the danger felt sharper. In the black cells, Eddard Stark waited with chains on his wrists and honor like a stone in his chest. Varys had just asked him to let that stone sink, to drag him into deeper water, because the only way to survive was to drown what he had been. And outside the Red Keep's walls, the city swelled with people hungry for spectacle. But the spectacle, Varys thought grimly, could be used. If the realm wanted a death, Varys would give it one. Just not the one they expected. That night, the iron door opened again. This time, it was not Varys in silks. Ruggin entered with a ring of keys, a jailer's lantern, and a face like winter stone. He did not bow. He did not speak with courtly softness. He looked at Eddard Stark as if he were a sack of grain. Eddard Stark's mind flashed to Varys's warning. Do not speak. He rose slowly, chain clinking. His leg protested, a bolt of pain that made his vision blur. He bit it down. He had bitten down pain before. Ruggin approached, keys jangling. He unlocked the shackles with practiced ease. The iron fell away, leaving Eddard Stark's wrists bare and aching. The sudden absence of weight felt strange, like stepping from deep snow onto stone. Ruggin thrust a bundle of rough cloth at him. Where? He grunted. Eddard Stark took it. The cloth smelled of sweat, old and sour. Prison clothes. He stripped off his torn, once fine tunic and pulled the wool on. The fabric scratched. It made him feel less like Lord of Winterfell and more like what the Lannisters had tried to make him. A captive, a traitor, a thing. Ruggin watched him with flat eyes. Then he jerked his head. Move! Eddard Stark limped forward, following. The corridor outside his cell was narrow and damp. The lantern's light bounced off stone, catching on iron rings hammered into walls. Places to chain men up, perhaps. The air smelled of mold and fear. They walked past other cells. Eddard Stark heard a man whispering prayers. He heard another man laughing softly to himself. He heard a woman weeping, and it stabbed him with sudden rage. A castle that held women in cages was a castle worth burning. Ruggin stopped at a section of wall that looked no different than any other. He pressed his palm to a stone, then shifted it with a grunt. The stone moved, revealing a crack of darkness beyond. A hidden door. Eddard Stark's breath caught. The Red Keep was full of secrets, but he had never expected to see one open. Beyond the crack, two children waited. Small, shaved-headed, eyes too bright. They held no lantern. They stared at Eddard Stark as if he were a wolf in a story. Ruggin shoved Eddard Stark through the opening. The children backed away silently, making room. The wall door slid shut behind them, sealing the corridor away. Darkness swallowed them, thicker than the black cell's darkness because this darkness was deliberate, built to hide. Eddard Stark stood still, forcing his breathing to slow. The air was warmer here, stale but dry. He could smell old dust and stone and something faintly sweet, perhaps the remnants of incense from some forgotten altar. One of the children lifted a hand and pointed down the passage. A faint draft brushed Eddard Stark's face, carrying the smell of water. He followed. The tunnel was narrow, carved into the rock beneath the Red Keep. The ceiling was low enough that Eddard Stark had to stoop. His leg burned with every step. The children moved ahead like ghosts, bare feet making no sound. Eddard Stark's own steps were louder, the scrape of his boot on stone echoing. He tried to soften his weight, but pain made him clumsy. He thought of Winterfell's halls, wide and bright with hearthfire, with the smell of roasting meat and dogs. He thought of Catelyn Stark's voice calling his name. He thought of Robb Stark's grin when he had first held a sword properly. He had not thought of these things down in the black cells because they had been too painful. Now, in this tunnel, they became fuel. They turned left, then right, then descended. The air grew cooler, damp again. Eddard Stark heard water more clearly now, running close by. The passage opened into a small chamber lit by a single candle stuck into a crack in the wall. Varys waited there, no longer in silks but in plain brown robes. In the candlelight, his face looked different, older, more human. Without the bright court mask, he seemed almost tired. He lifted a finger to his lips, reminding Eddard Stark. Silence. Eddard Stark nodded once. He kept his jaw clenched, because if he spoke he might curse, and curses in tunnels could bounce back in ways that killed. Varys gestured to a stool.
Eddard Stark sat, grateful.
His leg throbbed. On a table nearby lay a razor, a small pot and strips of cloth. Varys picked up the razor and held it up in question. Eddard Stark hesitated, then nodded. Whatever Varys planned, disguise would matter. Varys moved with surprising gentleness. He tilted Eddard Stark's chin and began to shave. The blade scraped away weeks of beard, leaving skin pale beneath. Eddard Stark's face felt naked, exposed. The cold air touched places it had not touched since his imprisonment. The children watched silent. One of them held the candle steady. When Varys finished, he dabbed Eddard Stark's skin with cloth, then picked up the pot. He smeared a dark paste through Eddard Stark's hair, working it in, changing its shade just enough to blur certainty. In the mirrorless darkness, Eddard Stark could not see the difference, but he could feel the wet weight. Varys wrapped a strip of cloth around Eddard Stark's head, covering his hair like a bandage. Then he tied another cloth around his neck, hiding the line of his jaw. He stepped back and studied him. His eyes were sharp again, calculating. Then, at last, Varys spoke, voice barely above a whisper. "From this moment," he murmured, "you are no longer Eddard Stark." Eddard Stark's hands clenched. The words felt like a death. Varys continued, "You are a prisoner being moved. You will not speak. You will not look anyone in the eye. You will be less." Eddard Stark's throat tightened, but he nodded. Varys leaned closer. "Tomorrow," he whispered, "King Joffrey Baratheon will have his spectacle. The realm will see Eddard Stark die. They will cheer. They will weep. They will believe. And you," Varys's gaze locked on his, "you will be gone." Eddard Stark's eyes burned. He wanted to ask about Sansa Stark, about Arya Stark, ABO. What would happen when the crowd screamed. But he forced the questions down because Varys had said the tunnels had mouths. Varys's hand rested briefly on his shoulder. It was a strange touch, soft, almost comforting, from a man who had never held a sword and yet had killed more with whispers than most men killed with steel. "Endure," Varys said. "It is only one more night." Eddard Stark's breath came out slow. One more night in darkness, but with the promise of air beyond. Varys gestured again, and the children moved. They led Eddard Stark deeper, toward the sound of water. Behind them, the candle burned low, and the chamber's light shrank until it was swallowed entirely. Above, the Red Keep slept, or pretended to. Dawn brought heat, and heat brought smell. King's Landing in summer was a stew left too long over the fire. Fish guts, sweat, smoke, spilled ale, and the sweet rot of fruit crushed underfoot. The streets leading to the Great September of Baelor filled early, a river of bodies flowing toward the promise of spectacle. Men and women climbed walls and roofs. Children perched on shoulders. Hawkers pushed through the crowd with baskets of onions and skewers of meat, shouting prices as if this were a fair. The faith's banners fluttered, 7-pointed stars in cloth that snapped in the breeze. At the front, near the platform, Sansa Stark stood with a white face and a rigid spine. Ser Marentrant's hand gripped her arm like a clamp. His armor gleamed, and his eyes were empty. Sansa Stark's blue gown was too fine for this place, too clean. It made her look like a flower pinned above a pit. Above her, the The steps of the September rose like a promise of holiness, but the platform built there was not holy. It was wood and iron, a stage for death. Island Payne waited on it, silent as always. The great sword in his hands looked too heavy to be carried by anyone without purpose. The sword's edge caught the light and made it sharp. Beside him stood septon and guards, gold cloaks, and men of the King's Guard. Sandor Clegane lingered near the king's side, his presence a warning to the crowd not to get too close. His burned face was set in a scowl. King Joffrey Baratheon sat in a high chair draped in cloth, pretending it was a throne. Queen Regent Cersei Lannister sat beside him, posture stiff. Her eyes swept the crowd constantly, searching for threats. Varys stood to the side, his hands folded, his face a picture of sympathetic sorrow. He watched not the crowd, but the lines of movement. Guards shifting, doors opening, the way Ser Marantran's fingers tightened on Sansa Stark's arm. And in the crowd, a small boy in a filthy hood stood with his head down. His hair was hidden, his face smeared with grime, but his eyes, gray and fierce, watched the platform with a hatred that could have burned stone. Arya Stark pressed close to Yoren of the Night's Watch, who kept one hand on her shoulder as if holding back a wild animal. Yoren smelled of smoke and old leather. His beard was bristly, and his gaze was sharp as a blade. "Keep your head down," Yoren muttered low. "Don't look like you know nothing."
Arya Stark swallowed, throat tight.
She wanted to push forward, to claw through bodies until she reached Sansa Stark. She wanted to scream her sister's name, but she had learned in the streets that screaming got you killed. She had also learned that the city did not care who you were. You were meat, and meat was cheap. A hush spread suddenly, rippling through the crowd like wind over grass. Heads turned. The gold cloaks at the edges straightened. The faith's septons lifted their hands, murmuring prayers. A line of guards emerged from the September side door, leading a prisoner.
The man wore corseware.
His hair was bound in cloth. His head was bowed. Chains clinked at his ankles. The crowd craned, hungry. Some shouted insults. "Traitor! Wolf! Northerner!" Others hissed and spat. Sansa Stark made a sound, half breath, half sob. She leaned forward as if pulled by invisible string. Arya Stark's hands clenched into fists. Her nails dug into her palms. She stared, trying to see through bodies, through distance, through cloth. The man lifted his head slightly, and for a heartbeat Arya Stark thought she saw her father's jaw, the shape, the line. But then the cloth shifted, and the light hit his face at an angle, and all she saw was a stranger's shadow. Yoren's hand tightened on her shoulder. "Don't," he whispered. On the platform, the High Septon stepped forward, hands raised. His voice boomed, carrying over the crowd. He spoke of treason, of sin, of the Seven's judgment. He called Lord Eddard Stark's name, and the crowd roared. The prisoner was pushed forward. He stumbled, whether from fear or from weakness, Arya Stark could not tell. The guards hauled him upright. Queen Cersei Lannister leaned toward King Joffrey Baratheon, lips moving quickly. Arya Stark could not hear, but she could see the queen's tension, the way her fingers twisted in her lap. King Joffrey Baratheon smiled. Not a royal smile, a child's smile when he breaks a toy and hears it crack. The High Septon asked the prisoner if he would confess. The prisoner's shoulders rose and fell, as if he were drawing breath through pain. His head lifted further. His voice came out hoarse, strained. "I confess," he rasped. The words were thin, but the crowd did not care. The crowd leaned in, swallowing them greedily. Arya Stark's heart slammed. The voice was wrong, too rough, too low. Her father's voice had been steady, deep, like a door closing. This voice was a hinge squealing. She shook her head, as if she could shake the wrongness away. Maybe pain had changed him. Maybe chains had changed him. She wanted to believe. She wanted not to. "I betrayed," the prisoner continued, stumbling over the words as if he had learned them by force. His eyes darted briefly toward the royal seats, and Arya Stark saw terror there, not her father's controlled fear, raw panic. King Joffrey Baratheon's laugh rang out, high and sharp. "Louder," he called. "Let them all hear." The prisoner tried again, voice breaking. "I betrayed King Joffrey Baratheon," he said. The crowd erupted, some cheering, some jeering. The words were enough. The story was being told. Truth did not matter. Queen Cersei Lannister exhaled. A fraction. Her shoulders loosened. She believed. Sansa Stark sobbed openly now, tears spilling. Ser Meryn Trant did not loosen his grip. He held her like property. Arya Stark's vision blurred with rage. She tasted salt. She wanted to push forward, to leap onto the platform, to stab King Joffrey Baratheon with her needle, to tear out his throat. Yoren's grip became iron. "Not now," he hissed. "Girl, not now." Arya Stark wanted to scream that she was not a girl. She was a wolf. Wolf's bit. On the platform, the High Septon raised his hands again, calling for mercy. He spoke of the wall, of forgiveness, of the realm's need for peace. His words floated up toward the royal seats like prayer. King Joffrey Baratheon leaned forward, bored. He looked at the prisoner, then at the crowd. He wanted their roar. He wanted their fear. "No," the boy king said suddenly. His voice cut through prayer like a knife. "I've heard enough." Queen Cersei Lannister's head snapped toward him. Her mouth opened in alarm. King Joffrey Baratheon stood, small and fierce. "Ser Island," he said, delighted. "Bring me his head." For a heartbeat, the crowd went silent. Then it erupted, not in joy, not in grief, but in the raw animal noise of a mob sensing blood. Sansa Stark made a sound that was not human. She collapsed, and Ser Meryn Trant caught her, holding her upright like a puppet. Arya Stark lurched forward, and Yoren yanked her back hard enough to make her stumble. "If you move," he growled, "you die and she dies and he dies and it's all for nothing." Arya Stark's breath came in sobs. She stared, eyes wide, as Island Payne stepped forward. The prisoner's knees buckled. He tried to speak, but no words came out now. His head turned, and Arya Stark saw his face fully for the first time. Bearded, gaunt, hair-bound, eyes wild. Not her father, not Eddard Stark, but the crowd did not know. The crowd did not care. They saw a man in chains, and they heard the name, and they believed the story they had come to witness. Island Payne raised the sword. The sun flashed along its edge, and somewhere deep beneath the September, in tunnels carved for secrets, Eddard Stark listened to the distant roar of his own death. The blade came down with a sound like wood splitting. Arya Stark did not remember screaming, but her throat burned as if she had. The crowd roared, and the noise swallowed everything. Prayer, shock, the Queen's sudden sharp command, the High Septon's protest. Blood spattered the platform, bright as spilled wine. The prisoner's body twitched, then sagged. For a heartbeat, the head did not fall clean. The sword had bitten, and bone had resisted, and then Island Payne's arms drove through resistance with brutal inevitability. The head rolled. A gold cloak kicked it aside, clearing the platform as if tidying. King Joffrey Baratheon laughed, delighted, clapping his hands as if watching a mummer's show. "There," he shouted. "That is justice." Queen Cersei Lannister's face went white. For a moment, she looked like she might strike her son. Her hand rose, trembling, then stopped. She lowered it slowly, her fingers curling into a fist in her lap. The High Septon cried out, aghast, "Your Grace!" "Silence!" King Joffrey Baratheon snapped. He sat again, eyes gleaming. "Put it on a spike. I want them to see." Sansa Stark crumpled completely now, her blue gown gathering around her like water. Ser Meryn Trant hauled her up with disgust, as if she were a sack of flour. Arya Stark fought like a wild thing, twisting under Yoren's grip. Tears streamed down her face, cutting clean tracks through grime. "Let me go!" she hissed, voice shredded. "Let me!" Yoren's hand clamped over her mouth. His other arm wrapped around her waist, holding her tight against his chest. "You'll get us both killed," he growled into her ear. "Look at me. Look at me." Arya Stark's eyes darted wildly. She looked at him, and for a heartbeat she saw something there. Not pity, but grim understanding. Yoren had seen boys die. He had seen men die. He had seen how a crowd could swallow a child whole. "Breathe," Yoren muttered. "Breathe, or you'll faint and we'll both be dragged to the front."
Arya Stark's chest heaved.
She tasted salt and blood. She stared at the head on the platform, at the way the hair dark bound, stuck to the gore. She wanted to believe it was her father. She wanted to deny it was her father. Her mind tore itself in half, and both have screamed. On the platform, a gold cloak lifted the head by the hair, holding it up for the crowd. The face was slack now, eyes open and staring at nothing. Blood ran down the cheeks. In that ruin, it could have been anyone. The crowd cheered. Some wept. Some vomited. Some laughed. Varys watched from the side, his face composed, his eyes shining with a dampness that might have been grief. But his hands were steady. His breathing was steady. He measured time by heartbeats, not by bells, and he was counting now. One of his birds, a little girl with a shaved head, slipped through the crowd's edge and vanished behind a pillar. Varys's gaze followed her for an instant, then returned to the platform. The High Septon tried again, voice plea. "Ding. This is not the way." King Joffrey Baratheon waved him away. "I am the way," he said, proud. "I am the king." Queen Cersei Lannister leaned close, her lips moving quickly, urgently. King Joffrey Baratheon's expression soured, then brightened again, because cruelty came easier than obedience. He stood once more, raising his arms to the crowd. "Let all traitors see what happens," he shouted. "Let them fear." Fear the crowd gave him. Fear and noise and the hungry eyes of men who had nothing and wanted to feel powerful for a moment by witnessing someone else's pain. That was the danger and the advantage. A crowd could be directed, and Varys directed. A man near the edge of the square shoved another man hard, shouting, "He was innocent!" The second man spat back, "He was a traitor!" Fists flew. A woman screamed. Someone threw a rock. The rock struck a gold cloak's helmet with a clang. The gold cloaks surged forward, batons raised. The crowd surged back, then forward again, anger rising like a tide. More rocks flew. Someone shouted that the faith was complicit. Someone shouted that the queen was a whore. Someone shouted that the king was a bastard, and that word bastard was like oil on fire. Sandor Clegane moved, stepping between the royal seats and the crowd, his hand on his sword. His eyes were hard. He did not like mobs. Mobs burned things. Mobs burned men. Janos Slint barked orders, and gold cloaks tried to form a line. But the crowd was too thick, too furious. People pushed, trampled, screamed. A child fell and vanished under feet. Sansa Stark was dragged away toward the September side door, Ser Meryn Trant hauling her as if she weighed nothing. Her head lolled. Her eyes were unfocused. She looked dead already. Arya Stark lunged again, but Yoren pulled her back into the crowd's churn. He shoved through bodies, using his weight like a plow. "Make way!" he shouted, and some men moved when they saw his black cloak. Others did not. Arya Stark's gaze remained fixed on the platform, on the head now being carried away, on the blood soaking into wood. Her father was dead. Her father was dead. Her father, but somewhere deep inside, a small cold voice whispered, "Not him, not him." The thought was a hook, caught her gut and held. She did not know why she believed it. She only knew the voice was there, stubborn as a wolf refusing a leash. The riot swelled. Gold cloaks struck with clubs. Small folk struck back with stones and fists. A woman's scream turned into a gurgle. A man's teeth flashed. Blood appeared not just on the platform now, but in the crowd. Varys watched, and in his mind he saw a wagon rolling through a gate. He saw a child following it. He saw Eddard Stark, alive, hidden in darkness. He had given the realm its death. Now he had to make sure the death stayed believed long enough for the living to escape. The city's streets convulsed with the aftermath of the riot, like a beast settling after being struck. Smoke drifted above rooftops. Shouts echoed in alleys. The gold cloaks were busy, dragging bodies away from the September, beating back those who lingered, arresting men at random to satisfy their need for control. In the confusion, the dead moved. A wagon creaked along a narrow street, its wooden sides stained dark. 2 tired horses pulled it, heads down. The driver wore a plain hood and kept his face hidden. The wagon was marked with a crude chalk sign, the kind that meant plague or corpse or simply, "Do not touch." It did not draw much attention. King's Landing was full of wagons, and after a spectacle like that, most men were eager to look away from death. Inside the wagon lay bodies wrapped in cloth. Some were real victims of the riot. Some were older, pulled from the dungeons, their death already accounted for in some ledger. The smell was thick and sweet, the air heavy with decay. Beneath one of the shrouds, Eddard Stark lay still. The cloth pressed against his face, damp with the death beneath. He breathed shallowly through it, careful, fighting the urge to gag. His leg throbbed with every shift of the wagon, but he kept his hands still, because any movement could shift the shroud and betray him. Above him, the wagon's boards rattled. Each jolt threatened to make him cry out. He clenched his jaw until his teeth ached. He could still hear the distant roar from the September square, faint now, like thunder moving away. He did not know whether it was cheers or screams. He did not know if Sansa Stark had seen. He did not know if Arya Stark had seen. The not knowing was a blade, twisting. He forced himself to think of the tunnel of Varys's words. Endure. A gap in the cloth let him see a sliver of daylight. It was shocking, like seeing a ghost. The sky was bright blue, indifferent. The world continued. He smelled river water, fish, tar. They were nearing the gates. A voice outside, rough. "What's this?" A gold cloak. The wagon slowed. The horses snorted. Eddard Stark's heart slammed. Varys's voice answered, low and irritated in the tone of a man who had dealt with fools too often. "Bodies," he said. "You want to count them?" Pause. The gold cloak's boots scraped. "From the September?" the man asked. "From wherever the gods decided to take them," Varys snapped. "Stand aside. The heat will make them worse." The gold cloak laughed nervously. "Go on then," he said, "and keep that stink away from me." The wagon creaked forward again. Eddard Stark held his breath until his lungs burned, then let it out slowly through the cloth. Sweat ran down his temples, mixing with the damp. He heard another voice, closer now, suspicious. "Open it," someone said. "We're searching wagons." The hands' heads gone missing. Eddard Stark's blood turned to ice. Varys's tone changed instantly, dropping into wounded pride. "Missing?" he said loudly. "After what? Those animals did at the September? Of course things go missing. They're tearing the city apart. I'm trying to keep plague from spreading, and you want to open it," the voice insisted. The wagon stopped. Boards creaked as someone climbed up. Eddard Stark's fingers twitched under the cloth. He forced them still. He could not fight here. He could not move. He was a corpse. The shroud above him shifted slightly as a hand grabbed cloth. Light stabbed in, sudden and bright. Eddard Stark kept his eyes half closed, letting his face slacken, letting death settle on his features. The cloth was pulled back enough that air hit his face. The smell of the street rushed in. He heard a curse. "7 hells," the gold cloak muttered. "Put it back." The cloth fell again. Bless darkness. Eddard Stark's heart pounded so hard he thought it might shake the shroud. The wagon jolted forward, faster now. Varys's voice floated in, calm again, chastising someone for wasting time. The gold cloaks fell away. A moment later, the air changed. Cooler. Open. The sound of water grew louder. They had passed through the river gate. Eddard Stark wanted to weep with relief, but he did not dare. The wagon rolled down toward the docks. The smell of the Blackwater was stronger here, muddy and alive. Sailors shouted. Ropes creaked. Gulls cried. The wagon stopped again. Boards shifted. Varys's voice murmured something too low to hear. Then hands grabbed the shroud near Eddard Stark's shoulders. He was lifted. Pain flared in his leg. Darkness danced at the edges of his vision. He bit down hard enough to taste blood. The shroud pressed tighter as he was carried. He heard water lapping. He felt a change in angle, the sway of a boat. Then, finally, the shroud was pulled away. Eddard Stark blinked, squinting against sunlight. He lay in the bottom of a small boat, the boards damp under him. Varys crouched beside him, face calm, eyes sharp. "Do not speak yet," Varys whispered. Eddard Stark nodded, breath coming in shallow gasps. He could see the river now, brown and wide. He could see the city's walls behind. The towers of the Red Keep rising like teeth. Smoke drifted above the Great September, faint but visible even from here. He was leaving. His hands shook. He curled them into fists. A small hand appeared at the boat's edge. One of the children, eyes wide, watching. Varys placed a coin in the child's palm, and the child vanished back into the shadows of the dock like a swallowed whisper. The boat rocked. A man at the stern, a fisherman with a scarred face, pushed off with a pole. The boat slid into the Blackwater, moving away from the docks, away from King's Landing, away from death. Eddard Stark stared back at the city. Somewhere in those walls, Sansa Stark was crying. Somewhere in those streets, Arya Stark was either dead or hiding like a rat. Somewhere on a spike, a stranger's head wore his name. Varys watched him. "It is done," he whispered at last.
Eddard Stark svoik.
He came out raw, barely a breath. "My daughters." Varys's gaze did not soften. "Alive," he said. "For now. You must keep them that way." Eddard Stark swallowed, the river wind drying sweat on his face. "I will," he said. Varys nodded once. "Then remember," he murmured. "You are dead. Let the realm mourn you. Let your enemies relax. Let your sun rage. When you rise again, my lord, rise with teeth." The boat drifted under the shadow of a bridge. For a heartbeat, King's Landing disappeared behind stone. Eddard Stark closed his eyes and breathed the river air, and it felt like the first breath after being held under too long. He did not know what waited beyond, but he was alive to meet it. Night came like a curtain drawn over a stage. The river turned black, reflecting only shards of moon and the occasional lantern from a passing barge. The fisherman rowed with steady, practiced strokes, never looking back, never asking questions. He had been paid to be blind. Eddard Stark sat hunched in the boat's belly, wrapped in a dark cloak that smelled of salt and smoke. The cloth bound around his head itched. His face, newly shaved, felt strange under the wind. His leg throbbed with every shift of the boat, but the motion also lulled him, a rocking that reminded him of being a boy, of lying in bed in Winterfell while storms beat the walls. Varys sat opposite, hood up, his round face shadowed. A covered lantern between them gave just enough light to see eyes and hands. Varys's hands were folded neatly, fingers interlaced as if at prayer. King's Landing lay behind them now, a distant cluster of lights under the dark mass of the Red Keep. Smoke rose still from somewhere, a faint smear against the stars. Eddard Stark could not look away. That city held his daughters and his honor, both captive. It also held his shame. A man had died wearing his name. Varys watched him. "It will be on a spike by morning," he murmured, voice barely audible over the water's hush. "Or perhaps it will have vanished in the riot. Either way, the story will be told."
Eddard Stark, throat tightened.
"A man died," he said. Varys nodded. "Many men died today," he replied. "Some for a king's amusement, some for a loaf of bread in a riot, some because they were in the wrong place when someone threw a rock. That is what a city is, my lord. 1,000 lives stacked together, and when one shifts, many fall." Eddard Stark's hands clenched around the cloak. "You used him," he said, and the accusation tasted bitter. Varys did not flinch. "Yes," he said simply. Eddard Stark stared at him. In the dim light, the spider looked smaller, less like a court fixture and more like a man in a boat, trying to keep the world from capsizing. You could have stopped it, Eddard Stark said. You could have stopped King Joffrey Baratheon? Varys's voice held a hint of weary amusement. My lord, I cannot stop the wind from blowing. I can only set my sails.
Eddard Stark's jaw tightened.
Then why save me? Varys's gaze shifted to the distant city. Because the wind is blowing toward war, he said. And war is expensive. Eddard Stark's eyes narrowed. Speak. Varys's hands unfolded. In the lantern's glow, his fingers looked soft, unfit for violence. Yet they had orchestrated violence more precisely than any sword. I have served many kings, Varys said. Some strong, some foolish, some cruel. The realm survives them because there are always men like you, men who believe in something more than themselves. Men the small folk can cling to when the crown becomes a monster. Eddard Stark felt a cold anger. You did not cling to me when I stood in the throne room and named Stannis Baratheon heir. Varys's eyes flicked, quick. No, he admitted. I did not, because if you had succeeded then, there would have been blood as well. And perhaps worse blood. Eddard Stark leaned forward, pain forgotten for a heartbeat. You wanted me to fail. Varys's face remained composed, but his voice turned softer. I wanted the realm to have a chance, he said. Not to break apart immediately, not to shatter under the weight of truth before it was ready. Eddard Stark's hands curled. Truth, he spat. Truth is the only thing holding this realm together. Varys's gaze held his. Is it? He asked quietly. Or is it the illusion of truth? The belief that the man on the throne has the right to sit there, even if he does not. The belief that the lords will obey because they always have. Eddard Stark's mouth opened, then closed. He thought of Robert Baratheon's rebellion, of the realm shattering because Aerys Targaryen had become mad. Truth had not held then. Swords had. Varys leaned closer, voice low. The realm is a tapestry, my lord, he murmured. Pulled too hard in one place, it tears. I am trying to keep it from tearing beyond repair. Eddard Stark stared at him in the lantern light. By lying, he said. By choosing which truths to reveal and when. Varys corrected. The fisherman's or dipped, sending ripples across the lantern's reflection. The light wavered. Eddard Stark's mind churned. He thought of Robb Stark, proud and young, calling banners. He thought of Catelyn Stark, fierce as any north wind, moving pieces of her own. He thought of Stannis Baratheon, rigid as stone, certain of law. He thought of Renly Baratheon, charming and ambitious. The realm was already tearing. My daughters, Eddard Stark said again, because every thread led back to them. Varys nodded. Yes, he said softly. Your daughters. He reached into his cloak and drew out a small bundle wrapped in cloth. He handed it across. Eddard Stark took it. Inside was a ring, simple, northern, with the dire wolf of House Stark. His own. The ring he had worn since he had been Lord of Winterfell. Varys must have taken it from him when the jailers stripped him. Eddard Stark's fingers closed around it like a talisman. The metal was cool, solid. You will need proof, Varys said quietly. When you come to your son, when you speak to lords, when you demand they believe a dead man is alive.
Eddard Stark's throat tightened.
Robb Stark will believe, he said. Varys's eyes softened a fraction. Yes, he murmured. He will, but others will not. And some will pretend to believe while they decide how to profit. Eddard Stark thought of the faces in the throne room, the smiles, the whispers. He thought of Petyr Baelish and his stomach turned. What of Petyr Baelish? Eddard Stark asked. He is in the Queen's ear. Varys's lips pursed. He is in everyone's ear, he said. That is his talent. Will he suspect?
Eddard Stark presset.
Varys's gaze drifted to the city. Again, perhaps, he admitted. Petyr Baelish sees patterns, but he also sees what he wants to see. He wanted you dead. He will be pleased. Pleasure makes men careless. Eddard Stark's fingers tightened on his ring. And you? He asked. What do you want to see? Varys turned his head slowly, meeting his eyes. For a moment, the mask slipped, and something old and hard looked out. Something that had endured pain and humiliation and had learned to survive by becoming indispensable. "I want to see a realm that does not drown in its own blood," Varys said. "And I want to see a king, someday, who understands what it costs to sit a throne."
Eddard Stark stared.
There was something in the way Varys said someday, as if the king he spoke of was not King Joffrey Baratheon, not even Stannis Baratheon, but someone not yet on the board. "You speak in riddles," Eddard Stark said. Varys smiled faintly. "Riddles keep men alive," he replied. The boat glided on. The river widened. The city's lights faded behind them, swallowed by distance and darkness. Eddard Stark's exhaustion settled in his bones. The adrenaline that had kept him rigid began to drain, leaving pain and heaviness. He shifted, grimacing, and Varys reached out without thinking, steadying him with a hand on his forearm. For a heartbeat, Eddard Stark felt the warmth of another human being, and it was strange after the black cell's cold. Varys withdrew his hand quickly, as if embarrassed by the gesture. "You will not go to the wall," Varys said softly, as if continuing a thought. "You will not kneel to King Joffrey Baratheon, but you must be careful. If you rush to war without thought, your daughters die." Eddard Stark's eyes burned. "If I do nothing, they die." "Yes," Varys agreed. "That is the cruel truth of it. So you must do something, but not foolishly. Not like a man charging with a sword. Like a man moving pieces on a board." Eddard Stark looked down at his hands. Hands that had held a greatsword. Hands that had built and judged and written letters. A board. He had never been good at boards. Boards were for southern men like Peter Baelish. Yet the realm had become one, and if he refused to learn, the board would swallow his children. "I will learn," Eddard Stark said, voice low. Varys's eyes gleamed in the lantern light. "Good," he murmured, "because you are about to become something you never wanted to be."
Eddard Stark's mouth tightened.
"What?" Varys's smile was small and sharp. "A dead man with a claim," he said. "And dead men are very difficult to stop." The fishermen's oar dipped again, and the boat slid into deeper darkness, leaving behind the city that believed Eddard Stark had died beneath a sword. Eddard Stark pulled his cloak tighter, held his ring in his fist, and stared into the night as if he could see the north through it. He could not, but he could feel it, in his blood, like a wolf hearing distant howls. They landed before dawn, when the sky was a bruise and the world held its breath. The riverbank was mud and reeds, the air thick with mosquitoes and the smell of wet earth. A small shack crouched among willows, its roof patched with old thatch. A dim light glowed through cracks, the promise of warmth. The fisherman hopped out first, boots sinking. He held the boat steady. Varys climbed after, nimble despite his size, and turned to Eddard Stark. "Careful," Varys whispered. Eddard Stark gritted his teeth and swung his good leg over the boat's edge. Pain lanced through his wounded leg when it took weight. He hissed soundlessly, refusing to give the night the satisfaction of hearing him break. Varys's hand came under his elbow, steadying him. Together they guided him onto the bank. Mud sucked at his boots, trying to claim him. He planted his feet and stood, trembling. For a moment he simply breathed. The air here was different from King's Landing's stink. It smelled of river and grass and distant trees. It smelled like the world could still be clean. Varys's gaze followed him into the shack. Inside, the air was warmer, thick with wood smoke. A small fire crackled in a stone hearth. Pot hung above it, steaming. A woman sat by the fire, face lined, eyes sharp. She rose when they entered, wiping her hands on her apron. She looked at Eddard Stark and did not flinch. Perhaps she had been told. Perhaps she had seen enough horrors that one more did not impress her. "A bed," she said gruffly, nodding toward a pallet of straw and blankets in the corner. "And broth. That leg looks like it'll rot if you don't tend it." Eddard Stark sank onto the pallet with a groan he could not quite swallow. The pain was a living thing, He clenched his fists until his knuckles whitened. Varys knelt beside him, already unwrapping cloth, revealing the wound. The woman fetched a bowl of hot water and herbs, her movements efficient. This was not a court healer's gentleness. This was the rough competence of someone who had patched men before, perhaps smugglers or sailors. Eddard Stark stared at the fire while they worked. He watched flames lick wood, turning it to embers. He thought of the Great September's platform of blood on wood. He thought of his name shouted by strangers who did not know him. He thought of Sansa Stark's face as she watched. His chest tightened until he could barely breathe. The woman cleaned the wound, muttering curses at infection. She poured a bitter-smelling liquor over it. Eddard Stark's vision went white. He bit down so hard he nearly cracked a tooth. When it was bandaged anew, he slumped back, sweat on his skin. Varys sat on a low stool, hands folded again. The fisherman stood near the door, waiting for his dismissal like a servant waiting for coin. There was a cage near the door, half covered by cloth. Inside, a raven shifted, feathers ruffling. Eddard Stark's eyes locked on it. Varys followed his gaze. "A bird," he murmured. "Not for King's Landing. For you." Eddard Stark's throat worked. "To Robb Stark," he rasped. Varys nodded. "Yes," he said, "but not yet. Not until you can write without shaking. Not until you know what you will ask him to do."
Eddard Stark's jaw tightened.
"He will march," he said. "He will burn the Riverlands to reach me." Varys's eyes held his. "He will do what sons do when their fathers die," he said. "He will rage." Eddard Stark's fingers curled into the blanket. "And he must," he said, voice thick. "He must rage, but not blindly." Varys leaned in slightly. "Then you must decide," he whispered. "Do you reveal yourself to your son now and risk rumors reaching the queen? Or do you let the realm believe you dead until the moment it hurts your enemies most?" Eddard Stark closed his eyes. The choice tasted like ash. He saw Sansa Stark's face again, and Arya Stark's fierce eyes. "They will hurt my daughter," he said. "Yes," Varys agreed softly. "They will. Because that is what they do." Eddard Stark's eyes snapped open. "Then I will hurt them back," he said, and the words came out colder than he expected. The woman by the fire paused, glancing at him. Even the fisherman shifted uneasily. Varys's gaze remained steady. "That is why I saved you," he said. Eddard Stark stared at him. "You saved me for vengeance?" Varys's mouth curved faintly. "For leverage," he corrected. "Vengeance is messy. It splashes." Eddard Stark's hand moved to the direwolf ring in his pocket. He pulled it out, turning it between his fingers. The metal caught firelight, dull and solid. It had been forged in the north, where things were made to last. "I will return," Eddard Stark said, voice low. "Not to this city, not yet, but to my people, to my son. I will bring the north down like winter." Varys listened, eyes bright. "And the veil?" he asked softly.
Eddard Stark blinked.
"The veil is closed," he said. "Lisa Arryn hides behind her mountains. Perhaps," Varys murmured. "But men in the Vale remember Jon Arryn. They remember you. Some doors open for ghosts."
Eddard Stark's mouth tightened.
The idea seemed impossible. Lisa Arryn's fear, Peter Baelish's whispering. Yet Varys had just pulled him through stone walls. Impossible had become negotiable. "You will guide me?" Eddard Stark asked. Varys's gaze drifted toward the river, toward the distant city. "For a time," he said. "Until it becomes too dangerous for me to be seen near you. Then you will move alone." Eddard Stark's eyes narrowed. "You will return." Varys nodded. "Yes," he said. "Someone must stay behind to keep the story alive. Someone must watch the queen's face when she believes she has won." The fisherman cleared his throat. Varys turned, pulled a small pouch from his sleeve, and tossed it. The fisherman caught it, weighed it, then nodded and slipped out without a word. Coin bought silence. Fear sealed it. The woman ladled broth into a wooden bowl and thrust it toward Eddard Stark. "Eat," she commanded. "You can plot when you're not half dead." Eddard Stark took the bowl with shaking hands. The broth was hot and tasted of onions and salt. Tasted like life. He swallowed, and it burned his throat in a way that felt cleansing. Varys rose. He pulled his hood up fully, shadowing his face. "Rest," he said. "When the sun rises, the city will be celebrating your death. The queen will be telling herself she has controlled her son. The boy king will be basking. They will not look for you here." Eddard Stark's eyes fixed on him. "My daughters," he said again, because the words were all that mattered. Varys's face softened, just a fraction. "I will watch," he promised. "I will do what I can. But you must understand, Lord Eddard, your daughters are hostages in a war that has already begun. They will be used. You cannot stop that with honor alone." Eddard Stark's fingers tightened around the bowl. "Then I will stop it with steel," he said. Varys's eyes gleamed. "And with law," he murmured. "Do not forget law. Steel without law is just more blood." Eddard Stark's gaze drifted to the raven cage. A messenger waiting. A bridge to the north. He imagined writing to Robb Stark. "I live. Do not crown yourself. Hold. Wait. Trust." It sounded like madness. Yet it was the only path that did not end with Sansa Stark dead on a cold floor. Eddard Stark's jaw set. "When I am strong enough to ride," he said, "you will send me north." Varys nodded. "Yes," he said. "And when you reach your people," he paused, as if choosing his last words carefully, "remember that you have died once already. Let that change you." Eddard Stark stared at the fire, at the way it consumed wood without hesitation. He thought of the Boy King's smile. He thought of the Queen's cold eyes. He thought of Peter Baelish's smirk. He thought of the platform, the sword, the head lifted by the hair. He had died. And now he would live with the knowledge of what death did to those left behind. "I will not be the man I was," Eddard Stark said softly. Varys's gaze held him. "Good," he murmured, "because the man you were would have tried to win with honesty. And honesty," he smiled faintly, "honesty is a luxury kings rarely allow." He turned and slipped out into the pre-dawn, his figure swallowed by reeds and mist. The river whispered. Somewhere far away, bells might soon ring for a dead hand of the king. Eddard Stark sat by the fire, broth cooling in his hands, pain throbbing in his leg, and stared northward as if his eyes could pierce the miles. He did not pray. He did not weep. He simply held his ring, listened to the raven's restless rustle, and let a new vow form in the quiet place where honor had once lived. He would bring them home. He would bring the realm to judgment. And if judgment required vengeance, then he would learn to make vengeance wear the face of law. The quill shook in Eddard Stark's fingers, though he tried to steady it by bracing his wrist against his knee. The pain in his leg pulsed with the slow insistence of a drum, each throb a reminder that he was not yet whole and could not afford to be broken. The river shack was dim and close, its air thick with smoke and onion broth and damp reeds. The woman who owned it, sharp-eyed, hard-mouthed, hovered near the fire as if daring anyone to suggest that a lord could die easier than a fisherman. The raven shifted in its cage, claws scraping wood, sensing movement and tension, a messenger waiting to be made useful. Varys sat like a shadow that had learned to breathe, hood up, hands folded. In the firelight, Varys's face looked less like a courtier's mask and more like a man who had survived too many versions of the same disaster. Eddard Stark wrote the first line, then stopped. Ink pooled where the quill hesitated. Robb Stark, he wrote, then crossed it out. Too familiar, too easily recognized if the letter was taken. He started again. To my son, he wrote, and the words blurred for a heartbeat. He forced his eyes to clear. Varys leaned forward slightly. Keep it short, Varys murmured. If you pour your heart onto the page, some other man will read it and profit.
Eddard Stark's jaw tightened.
He must know, Eddard Stark whispered. He must believe, Varys corrected softly. Those are not always the same thing. Eddard Stark stared at the parchment, then wrote again, slower, pressing the quill as if pressure could make truth permanent. I live. Do not crown. Hold Jaime Lannister. Hold Theon Greyjoy. Trust your mother. Meet at Riverrun by nightfall 3 days after this reaches you. Eddard Stark paused, then added the only proof that mattered. The wolfshed ring is on my hand. He stopped, breath shallow. The message felt like madness. A dead man commanding a war from a hut in the reeds. Varys's gaze flicked to the line about Theon Greyjoy. Good, Varys murmured, and there was a grim satisfaction in it. Do not loose that kraken to swim home. A hostage is only useful while you still hold the chain.
Eddard Stark's mouth tightened.
He remembered Theon Greyjoy as a boy brought to Winterfell, a ward and a warning. Theon Greyjoy had laughed loudly, smiled too easily. Eddard Stark had never hated him. Eddard Stark had never trusted him. Outside, the river whispered through reeds like a secret being told repeatedly, hoping someone would learn it. How will this reach Robb Stark? Eddard Stark asked, voice low. Varys's eyes moved to the raven cage. Not by that bird, Varys said. Ravens fly to castles. Castles ask questions. Castles have maesters who can be bribed, threatened, or replaced. Varys's mouth curved faintly. No, this letter goes by feet. Loyal feet. The door creaked slightly. One of the shaved-headed children slipped in, silent as smoke. The child's eyes went to Varys, then to Eddard Stark, lingering on the direwolf ring now V. Visible where Eddard Stark's fingers curled around the parchment. Varys held out his hand. Eddard Stark hesitated only a heartbeat, then folded the letter tight, sealed it with a smear of wax taken from the fire's candle stub, and pressed his ring into it. The wax held the direwolf's bite. He gave it to Varys. Varys handed it to the child, along with a tiny coin. The child's fingers closed around both as if closing around destiny. Then the child slipped out again, soundless.
Eddard Stark exhaled.
Felt like giving away a piece of himself. Now, Varys said, rising. You move.
Eddard Stark stared.
Now? The city will be hunting for ghosts today, Varys replied. And men hunting ghosts trample everything else. That gives you cover. Varys tilted his head. Your strength is not in your leg, my lord. It is in your name. But your name must stay buried until it can rise with an army. The river woman thrust the broth into Eddard Stark's hands again. Drink, she ordered. If you faint on the road, I'll feed you to the crabs myself.
Eddard Stark swallowed.
The broth burned his throat, bitter with herbs that would fight the rot in his wound. He welcomed the burn. It meant his body still answered. Varys leaned close, voice dropping to a thread. I can bring you to the Riverlands edge, Varys whispered. Past that, I return to King's Landing. If I vanish too, someone will look for the missing spider. And if they look for me, they might stumble onto you. Eddard Stark's eyes hardened.
Sansa Stark, Eddard Stark said.
Varys's face did not change, but something tightened around his eyes. I will watch Sansa Stark, Varys said, and I will look for Arya Stark. That is what I can do from inside the lion's den. Varys's mouth became thin. From outside, I am only prey. Eddard Stark nodded once, the motion sharp. He hated that it made sense. Varys stepped back, already turning the plan in his mind. You will travel as a wounded septon, Varys said. A man of the faith draws less suspicion on the road, and you will keep your head bowed as septons do. Your voice must be silence. Silence is a holy disguise. Eddard Stark almost laughed at that, but no sound came. Varys moved to the door and pulled his hood tighter. The raven rustled in its cage again, as if offended that it had been denied its purpose. Rest only when you must, Varys said. And when you reach Riverrun, Varys paused, letting the fire pop and crackle between them. Do not let them make another king out of grief. Grief crowns fools. Eddard Stark's hand closed around his ring, and the wolf's metal muzzle pressed into his skin. They will listen, Eddard Stark said, voice low. Varys's eyes held his. Make them, Varys murmured, and slipped out into the gray morning. Eddard Stark sat by the fire, broth cooling, and listened to the river. Somewhere far away, a boy king laughed at a death that was not Eddard Stark's. Somewhere far away, Eddard Stark's children breathed under Nemi hands. Eddard Stark pushed himself upright, pain flaring, and did not let it stop him. Queen Cersei Lannister's hand struck the table hard enough to rattle the goblets. Wine jumped like startled blood. "You stupid, vicious boy," Queen Cersei Lannister hissed, and the words came out before she could polish them into something fit for court. "You were to show mercy." King Joffrey Baratheon leaned back in his chair, lounging as if the solar belonged to him by divine decree and not by the precarious accident of birth. His smile was bright and empty. "I showed justice," King Joffrey Baratheon said. Queen Cersei Lannister's fingers dug into King Joffrey Baratheon's sleeve. "You showed the realm that you cannot be controlled," Queen Cersei Lannister said, voice shaking with fury. "You showed them that you are a child with a sword." King Joffrey Baratheon's eyes narrowed, offended. "I am the king." Sansa Stark knelt on the rug near the table, hands clasped. Her blue skirts spread like a puddle of sky spilled indoors. Her eyes were red and swollen. She had been dragged from the September back through corridors that smelled of incense and sweat, half carried when her legs refused her, and her mind still reeled with the sound of the blade. Queen Cersei Lannister's attention snapped to Sansa Stark with the suddenness of a whip. "Look at her," Queen Cersei Lannister said sharply to King Joffrey Baratheon. "This is what you've done. You have made a martyr and a hostage in the same breath." King Joffrey Baratheon glanced at Sansa Stark as one might glance at a cracked plate. "She's crying," King Joffrey Baratheon said with bored distaste. "Tell her to stop."
Sansa Stark's breath hitched.
She pressed her lips together, swallowing a sob so hard her whole body shook. Ser Meryn Trant stood at her shoulder, hand ready, eyes dull. Ser Mandon Moore stood nearer the door, pale and silent, as if he had been carved from moonlight. Varys watched from the doorway, head bowed, the picture of obedient concern. Inside, his mind counted. Anger, fear, control slipping, the Queen's grip tightening like a noose on her own son. Queen Cersei Lannister bent down suddenly, her voice dropping to something almost gentle. "Sansa Stark," Queen Cersei Lannister said. "You will stand." Sansa Stark tried. Her knees wobbled. Ser Meryn Trant hauled her up with a roughness that made her wince. Queen Cersei Lannister cupped Sansa Stark's chin again, not kindly, possessively. "You will write to Robb Stark," Queen Cersei Lannister said. "You will tell him your father confessed. You will tell him you beg him to lay down arms. You will tell him the North will burn if he does not."
Sansa Stark's lips parted.
"My father," she began, and the words strangled. King Joffrey Baratheon's voice cut in, gleeful and cruel. "Your father's head will look lovely on a spike," King Joffrey Baratheon said. "I should send it north with a ribbon."
Sansa Stark swayed.
The room tilted. She saw the sword again, saw blood, saw the head lifted by hair. She could not breathe. Queen Cersei Lannister. Ar's grip tightened on her chin until it hurt. "You will do as I say," Queen Cersei Lannister whispered, "or your brother will learn what pain truly is." Sansa Stark's eyes filled again. "Yes, your grace," she managed, the words scraping out like broken glass. King Joffrey Baratheon's smile returned. "Make her look at it," King Joffrey Baratheon said suddenly. "I want her to see what happens to traitors." Queen Cersei Lannister's face went still. "Enough," Queen Cersei Lannister said. King Joffrey Baratheon leaned forward, delighted that he had found a place to push. "No," King Joffrey Baratheon said, and the childish defiance in it was poison. "Bring her to the walls. Bring her now." Queen Cersei Lannister's eyes flashed, but she forced her voice calm. "Later," Queen Cersei Lannister said tightly, "after she writes." Varys stepped forward a fraction, as if timid. "Your Grace," Varys murmured. "The girl is in shock. If she is to write convincingly, She must breathe. Queen Cersei Lannister's gaze flicked to Varys, then away. Yes, Queen Cersei Lannister snapped. Fine. A servant was summoned with parchment and ink. Sansa Stark was pushed to the table. Her hands trembled so badly the quill scratched jagged lines. Tears fell onto the parchment, blotting ink. King Joffrey Baratheon watched, bored already. He plucked a grape from a bowl and popped it into his mouth. "Tell him I'll have his head too," King Joffrey Baratheon said around the grape. "Tell him I'll make a cloak from wolfskins."
Sansa Stark's throat tightened.
She wrote what Queen Cersei Lannister dictated, each word a betrayal carved into paper. Robb Stark, she wrote, begging, pleading, lying. She hated herself for every stroke. Yet she thought, if Robb Stark comes, maybe they will kill him too. If Robb Stark comes, maybe they will kill me anyway. If Robb Stark... She could not see a path that did not end in blood. When she finished, Queen Cersei Lannister took the parchment and read it quickly, then nodded, satisfied. She handed it to Varys without looking. "See that it goes," Queen Cersei Lannister ordered. Varys bowed. "Of course, Your Grace." King Joffrey Baratheon yawned. "Now the walls," King Joffrey Baratheon said. Queen Cersei Lannister's jaw clenched, but she signaled. Ser Meryn Trant seized Sansa Stark's arm. As they dragged Sansa Stark toward the door, Sansa Stark caught Varys's eye. For a heartbeat, she saw something there. Pity, perhaps, or calculation so smooth it resembled pity. Varys lowered his gaze, as if ashamed to meet it. Sansa Stark was pulled from the room, the corridor swallowing her sobs. Queen Cersei Lannister watched her go, then turned back to King Joffrey Baratheon, and the gentleness vanished. "You will learn," Queen Cersei Lannister said, voice low and deadly, "or you will destroy us all." King Joffrey Baratheon laughed, the sound light and wrong. "We're lions," King Joffrey Baratheon said. "We don't learn, we bite." Varys slipped out bay. And them, letter in hand, and felt the castle tighten around its own secrets like a fist. They marched before the sun had fully climbed, because leaving King's Landing was easiest when the city was still yawning. The gates were crowded with carts and beggars, with men fleeing riot whispers and women hauling bundles of laundry like shields. The gold cloaks checked some, ignored others. Corruption was a kind of weather here, always present, always shifting. Arya Stark walked with her head down beneath a hood that stank of old sweat. She was airy now, a skinny boy with a dirty face and a stolen life. Yoren of the Night's Watch kept her close, always half a step ahead, his broad shoulders making a barrier through the press of bodies. "Eyes low," Yoren muttered. "Mouth shut. You're no one." Arya Stark's hands were fists inside sleeves too long. They reached the gate. The stone arch rose above them, and above the arch, heads stared down. The spikes made a forest. Some faces were too ruined to recognize. Others were clean enough to make the horror personal. Flies hummed. Blood had dried black at the necks. Arya Stark's heart tried to break out of her chest. There was a head with dark hair bound, beard matted, face slack, eyes open. A head meant to be Eddard Stark. Arya Stark's breath stopped. The world narrowed until there was only that face, that beard, that dead stare. For a heartbeat, Arya Stark believed. Grief punched through her ribs, hot and sudden. Then something in her, stubborn and cold, rebelled. The jaw was wrong. The brow was wrong. The face was too narrow, the nose too sharp. Eddard Stark had been carved by northern wind and duty. This face looked carved by hunger. Arya Stark's eyes burned. She blinked hard. Tears spilled anyway, because even if it was not Eddard Stark, it was still a man murdered for Eddard Stark's name. Yoren saw her looking and grabbed the back of her collar, hauling her closer. "Don't," Yoren hissed. "Don't you do it, girl." Arya Stark's throat worked. She could not speak. If she spoke, she would scream. A gold cloak watched them from the gate's shadow, eyes narrowed. "Recruits?" The gold cloak called. Yoren spat to the side. "Night's Watch," Yoren said, voice loud and rough. "Taking what you Southron shits don't want." The gold cloak laughed and stepped aside. "Take him," the gold cloak said. "The wall like him." Arya Stark forced her feet to move. Each step away from the spikes felt like tearing skin from bone. She wanted to turn back. She wanted to climb the wall and rip the heads down and carry them to Winterfell and bury them properly. She wanted to tear King Joffrey Baratheon's head off and see how he liked the sun. But Yoren pushed and the crowd pushed, and the gate swallowed them and then spat them out onto the road beyond. Outside the walls, the air was clearer. The stink of the city thinned. Fields stretched under summer sun, green and indifferent. Arya Stark walked until the spikes were no longer visible. Only then did her legs start to shake. Yoren shoved her gently toward the ditch beside the road and crouched with her, hiding them behind a cart's passing bulk. "Listen," Yoren said, voice low now. "You want to live? You do what I tell you. You don't jump at lions. Lions eat you."
Arya Stark's teeth clenched.
Her voice came out in a rasp. "They killed my father." Yoren's gaze held hers, hard. Yoren said. "And they'll kill you too if you make noise." Yoren's hand tightened on her shoulder. "You want vengeance? Live long enough to take it." Arya Stark swallowed, the word vengeance settling in her like a stone. Yoren's eyes softened a fraction, the way a hard man's eyes could soften without becoming gentle. "You keep that hate," Yoren muttered. "It'll warm you at night on the road. But you keep it quiet." Arya Stark nodded once, sharp. They rose and rejoined the line. Recruits shuffled in chains. Boys with hollow cheeks stared at the road like it might offer mercy. A fat boy cried softly. A boy with a bull's strength glared at everyone. Arya Stark walked among them, airy in rags, with a needle-thin sword hidden where no one looked. Behind them, King's Landing rose like a wound on the horizon. Above its gates, heads stared at the sky. Arya Stark did not look back again. She stared ahead, and in her mind she built a list of names like a prayer. King Joffrey Baratheon, Queen Cersei Lannister,
Ser Meryn Trant,
Sandor Clegane, Alan Payne. Each name was a promise. By midday, Eddard Stark was no longer in the reeds. The barge smelled of river mud and stale grain. Barrels rolled with each shift of water. Sacks of flour lay piled like sleeping bodies. A rough wooden seven-pointed star hung from a pole at the bow, swaying gently, an argument made of timber. "We are faith, we are harmless, we are not worth the trouble." Eddard Stark sat among the sacks with his head wrapped in linen, face half hidden. The cloth stained faintly where sweat and blood had seeped through. His leg was braced straight in front of him. Every bump of the barge sent pain flaring up his thigh, but Eddard Stark held himself still, mouth shut, eyes lowered as Varys had instructed. A wounded septon did not glare. A wounded septon did not speak. A wounded septon endured. Varys sat near him, posture slumped in the practiced exhaustion of a traveler. No silks, no perfume, only plain cloth and a hood that shadowed his face. The spider had shed his bright skin and moved through the world as if he were just another man trying to reach tomorrow. The barge drifted down the Blackwater, keeping to the quieter channels, letting faster boats pass. Fishermen called to one another. A heron lifted off from reeds, wings beating slow and heavy. At a river crossing, armed men stood on the bank. Not gold cloaks. These wore mismatched leathers and carried spears that had seen use. Their eyes were hungry. War made hungry men into wolves. The barge master, an old man with a missing ear, raised a hand in greeting. "Septons," the barge master called, "taking food upriver to the villages." One of the armed men spat into the water. "Food," the armed man said, "and coin." The barge master's shoulders hunched. "There's no coin," the barge master pleaded. "Just flour." The armed man's gaze slid to Eddard Stark, lingering on the bandaged head. The stillness. "What's that one?" the armed man asked. Varys spoke before anyone else could. His voice was low, weary, convincing. "A brother hurt in the riot," Varys said. He took a stone to the head and a spear in the leg, trying to keep the small folk from tearing each other apart. The armed man laughed. "A holy fool," the armed man said. "Strip the sacks." Another man stepped forward, spear tip tapping a barrel. The barge master flinched. Eddard Stark kept his eyes down. His hands curled against the sack beneath him, fingers digging into coarse cloth. He could kill if he had to. He had killed before. But here, with his leg useless and his life a secret, killing would be a bell rung in a quiet hall. Varys reached into his sleeve and produced a small purse. He tossed it lightly. The armed man caught it, weighed it, and smiled. "That's coin," the armed man said. Varys shrugged, as if resigned to being robbed by petty men. "For the hungry," Varys said. The armed man laughed again and stepped back. "Go on then," the armed man called. "Pray for me." The barge drifted onward, leaving the crossing behind.
Eddard Stark's
lungs released a breath he hadn't realized he held. Varys did not look at him. Varys stared at the river's surface, watching sunlight shatter on moving water. "They're everywhere," Varys murmured. "Men with spears who think war means they can take what they like." Eddard Stark's voice stayed buried. The septon disguise demanded silence. But Eddard Stark's mind spoke loudly enough. This was what the realm had become. Armed hunger in leather, taking from peasants, taking from riverboats, taking from everything weaker than themselves. Law had dissolved the moment Robert Baratheon died, and now the pieces scrambled for meat. The barge passed a village on the bank. Smoke rose from blackened beams. A woman stood amid the ashes holding a child with no sound in her mouth, only empty eyes. A dog picked through debris. Eddard Stark's jaw tightened until it hurt. Varys followed his gaze. "Yes," Varys murmured, as if answering the unspoken fury. "That is why you must live." The river carried them on. The air tasted of summer, but the land tasted of war. By evening, the barge moored near a stand of willows where a narrow path led away from the water. A man waited there with 2 horses, reins in hand, face half hidden beneath a rough cap. Varys disembarked first, speaking low. The man nodded once. Eddard Stark was helped off next. His legs screamed when weight shifted. He gritted his teeth and forced the sound down, keeping the septon's silence. The man with the horses, no lord, no knight, just a hard-eyed traveler, offered Eddard Stark a hand. Eddard Stark took it. Varys moved close, voice barely a breath. "This is as far as I go," Varys whispered. Eddard Stark's eyes lifted. "You return," Eddard Stark rasped, breaking silence only for necessity. Varys nodded once. "I return," Varys said, "and you disappear into the Riverlands like a rumor."
Eddard Stark's mouth tightened.
"Sansa Stark," Eddard Stark said. Because the name was a wound, Varys's face remained smooth. "I will watch," Varys promised again. "That is my vow." For a heartbeat, Eddard Stark wanted to seize Varys, to demand certainty from a world that had none. But Eddard Stark only nodded, because time was a knife. Varys stepped back into the river shadows. "When you see your son," Varys murmured, "remind him, wolves hunt in packs." Then Varys turned and melted into the twilight, leaving Eddard Stark on the riverbank with a stranger's reins in his hand and war's smell thick in the air. The Riverlands did not look like a land. They looked like a wound that had been opened and left to fester in summer heat. Eddard Stark rode with his body rigid to keep his wounded leg from bouncing too hard. The guide, who called himself Tom, though Eddard Stark doubted it was his true name, kept to back roads, avoiding villages with smoke and crossroads with armed men. Tom spoke little. When Tom did speak, it was with the clipped caution of a man who had learned that words traveled. They passed a farmhouse burned to its bones. A child's doll lay in the road, face blackened, one glass eye missing. A dead horse sagged in a ditch, belly split, flies thick around it. Somewhere in the distance, a woman wailed, the sound rising and falling like wind through bare branches.
Eddard Stark's stomach churned.
He had judged men in Winterfell, heard their crimes, sentenced them. He had always believed punishment should be clean, swift, honest. This was not punishment. This was savagery wearing armor. On a hill beyond a stand of trees, a column of men marched along a larger road, their spears like a moving thicket. Banners snapped above them, red cloth, gold lion. Lannister. Tom pulled Eddard Stark's horse behind the trees. "Keep your head down," Tom muttered. Eddard Stark's fingers tightened on the reins. He wanted to ride out, to stop them, to demand they cease. But what would a wounded septon demand of men who burned villages for sport? What would Eddard Stark demand? Dead in the realm's eyes. The Lannister column moved past, boots beating the earth. Eddard Stark caught glimpses between branches. Men in steel, faces hard. A knight laughing at something said by his companion. A prisoner stumbling in chains. A boy no older than Bran Stark carrying a spear too long for his arms. Were ate everyone. It did not care whose banner you wore. When the column was gone, Tom exhaled and nudged Eddard Stark onward. They rode until the sky turned purple and the first stars pricked through. They found refugees on the road. An old man pulling a cart with one broken wheel. A woman with a baby wrapped against her chest. Two boys with sacks on their backs. The refugees looked at Eddard Stark's septon cloak and reached out as if holiness could feed them. "Brother?" The woman croaked, voice raw. "Have you bread?"
Eddard Stark's throat tightened.
His hands were empty. His name was empty. He had nothing to offer but words, and words did not fill bellies. Tom tossed them a small loaf from his saddlebag. The woman grabbed it with shaking fingers, sobbing. "Gods bless you," the old man whispered. Eddard Stark's jaw clenched so hard it ached. The gods had done nothing. Men had done this. They rode on, leaving the refugees behind, and Eddard Stark hated himself for it. A lord was supposed to protect. A hand of the king was supposed to hold the realm together. Eddard Stark had failed. Now he rode past suffering like a thief because if he stopped, he would die and his daughter. Arya would die and the realm would burn anyway. Night deepened. They reached a low hill where an inn should have stood. Tom said there had been one once, but only charred posts remained. The smell of burned ale still clung to the earth. Tom dismounted and checked the ground, eyes scanning for tracks. "We don't sleep here," Tom said. Eddard Stark's voice rasped from beneath linen. "Where?" Eddard Stark asked. Tom jerked his head toward a line of trees. "Cave," Tom said. "Old smuggler's hole." Safe enough. Safe enough. The phrase had become the realm's prayer. They reached the cave and lit no fire. They ate cold cheese and hard bread, chewing in darkness. Eddard Stark's leg throbbed constantly, the pain a living companion. Tom leaned close, whispering. "Riverrun's close," Tom said. 2 days, maybe less, if we don't run into wolves."
Eddard Stark's brow furrowed. "Wolves," Eddard Stark whispered.
Tom's mouth twisted. "Not your kind," Tom said. "Men. Men with swords and empty eyes. The kind that don't care if you're faith or farmer." Eddard Stark stared into the cave's blackness and thought of wolves. Real wolves, pack creatures that killed to eat and then moved on. Men were worse. Men killed because they could and then they laughed. Eddard Stark touched his ring through cloth, feeling the direwolf's shape. Somewhere ahead, Riverrun stood behind its walls, and inside those walls his wife and son gathered the North's fury into an army. Eddard Stark closed his eyes and forced himself to breathe quietly. He had promised himself he would return with the North. But first he had to reach them without being swallowed by the war he had helped unleash. They reached the river road under a moon thin as a blade. Riverrun lay beyond, still hidden by trees and bends in the river, but Eddard Stark could feel its presence the way a man could feel a storm before it broke. The land here was watched. War made every shadow suspect. Tom whistled softly, 2 notes, then 1. An odd little bird call. Eddard Stark's horse shifted, uneasy. From the trees ahead, torches flared low, carefully hooded. Riders emerged, moving like men trained not to be seen. Tully outriders in blue and red, swords drawn, eyes hard. Their leader sat straight-backed, gray hair bristling like frost, his face carved into a permanent scowl. Brynden Tully called the Blackfish.
Eddard Stark's chest tightened.
Brynden Tully had always been blunt, always suspicious of southern politicking. Brynden Tully had also loved Catelyn Stark fiercely, in his own harsh way. If any man would smell deception, it would be Brynden Tully. "Hold," Brynden Tully snapped, and the word cut the night clean. "Who comes?" Tom raised both hands. "A friend," Tom said quickly. "Sent by." Brynden Tully's eyes narrowed. "Friends don't skulk on my roads at night," Brynden Tully said. "Name yourself." Tom swallowed. "Tom," Tom said, as if that should mean something. Brynden Tully's mouth twisted. "I've killed 3 Toms this month," Brynden Tully said. "Try again." Eddard Stark shifted in the saddle, pain biting. He forced himself to sit upright despite it. Silence had served him so far, but silence would not open this door. Eddard Stark pulled back the edge of his septon cloak and lifted his hand. The direwolf ring caught a sliver of moonlight, dull silver, unmistakable in its northern shape. Brynden Tully's gaze snapped to it. For a heartbeat, the Blackfish did not move. Then Brynden Tully's horse stepped forward, hoofs quiet on packed earth. Brynden Tully leaned in, eyes sharp, staring at the ring as if it were a knife held out to him. "Where did you get that?" Brynden Tully demanded. Eddard Stark's voice came out low and raw beneath the linen wrap. "From my hand," Eddard Stark said. Brynden Tully's eyes flicked up to Eddard Stark's face. The linen hid much, but not the eyes. Not the gray eyes that had watched winter for too many years. The Blackfish's jaw tightened. He stared as if looking at a ghost come to test him. "7 hells?" Brynden Tully whispered, and the curse sounded like a prayer. One of the outriders made the sign of the 7. Another muttered, "Impossible." Brynden Tully's gaze did not leave Eddard Stark. "If this is some Lannister trick," Brynden Tully said, voice like steel, "I'll hang you from the nearest tree and feed your tongue to crows." Eddard Stark nodded once, grim. "Do it," Eddard Stark said. "If I cannot answer what only I can know, do it." Brynden Tully's eyes narrowed further. "What did you say to Catelyn Tully on your wedding night?" Brynden Tully demanded. When she cried for Brandon Stark, the question hit Lee.
"Get a fist."
Even Tom stiffened, startled by the cruelty of it. Eddard Stark's throat tightened, memory sharpening. He could see the chamber in Winterfell, candles flickering, Catelyn Stark's tears. Her whispered name for the brother Eddard Stark had never been allowed to mourn properly. Eddard Stark's voice was rough. "I told Catelyn Stark," Eddard Stark said slowly, "that Brandon Stark was dead, and that I would not be a shadow in his bed. I told Catelyn Stark we would build something of our own, or we would build nothing." Brynden Tully stared, and something in Brynden Tully's face shifted, shock, then fierce, contained emotion. Brynden Tully swallowed hard and jerked his head to the side. "Cloaks?" Brynden Tully snapped at his men. "Cover him, now." The outriders moved instantly, surrounding Eddard Stark and Tom, draping dark cloaks to hide the septon garb, to hide the bandages, to hide the impossible. Brynden Tully leaned in close, voice barely a breath. "If Robb Stark sees you," Brynden Tully whispered, "he'll howl loud enough for King's Landing to hear." Eddard Stark's eyes burned. "Robb Stark must see," Eddard Stark said. Brynden Tully shook his head sharply. "Catelyn Stark first," Brynden Tully said. "Catelyn Stark decides how we handle miracles." Brynden Tully wheeled his horse and gestured. "Move," Brynden Tully ordered. "No torches high, no songs. If anyone asks, you're a wounded priest we found in the woods." They rode hard toward Riverrun, hooves muffled, bodies hunched. The rivers were near, the air cooler, the land damp with water's breath. Somewhere ahead, Riverrun's walls waited, lit by small points of watchfire. Eddard Stark rode among them like a secret stuffed into flesh. For the first time since the Black Cells, Eddard Stark felt the edge of hope cut through pain. He was near his own. Catelyn Stark had been counting grief like coins. Grief for Eddard Stark, dead, beheaded, a story sent south on raven wings. Grief for Bran Stark, broken. Grief for Arya Stark, lost. Grief for Sansa Stark, caged. Grief for the Riverlands, burning. Grief for Robb Stark, forced into a man's war before his beard had fully come. Her eyes were dry now, because she had cried until tears felt like weakness she could no longer afford. She sat in a small chamber in Riverrun with a candle guttering low, hands clasped so tightly her fingers ached. Outside the window, water moved around the castle like a constant whisper. The tumblestone and the red fork, endless, indifferent, holding Riverrun like an island of stubborn stone. When the door opened, Catelyn Stark did not look up at first. She assumed it was another messenger, another tally of dead men. Then she heard Brynden Tully's voice, unusually tight. "Cat," Brynden Tully said. "You need to see this." Catelyn Stark's head lifted sharply. Brynden Tully stepped aside, and a hooded figure entered behind him, limping, face wrapped in linen, a cloak hiding the shape of the body beneath. The figure moved like an old man, careful and pained. Catelyn Stark's breath caught. "Who?" Catelyn Stark began. The figure lifted a hand, and the direwolf ring caught candlelight.
Catelyn Stark Froze.
Her mind rejected what her eyes offered. She had buried Eddard Stark already in her heart because if she did not, she would shatter. The figure lowered the hood enough that candlelight hit gray eyes beneath bandages. Eddard Stark's eyes. Catelyn Stark's hand flew to her mouth. A sound escaped her, half sob, half gasp, a creature noise. She stood so fast her chair scraped the floor. "Eddard," Catelyn Stark whispered, and the name was both prayer and accusation.
Eddard Stark.
Eddard Stark's voice came out rough. "Catelyn Stark," Eddard Stark said, and the sound of her name in Eddard Stark's mouth broke something in her. Catelyn Stark crossed the room in 2 steps and slammed her hands against Eddard Stark's chest as if trying to confirm he was solid. Eddard Stark swayed, pain flashing across his face. Catelyn Stark's hands flew up to his shoulders, holding him. "You're dead," Catelyn Stark whispered fiercely. I saw Robb Stark heard."
Eddard Stark's jaw clenched.
"A man died in my place," Eddard Stark said. "The realm believes me dead." Catelyn Stark's eyes filled, suddenly, uncontrollably. She pressed her forehead to Eddard Stark's bandaged brow. "7 save us," Catelyn Stark whispered. "7 save us." Brynden Tully shut the door and stood guard, arms crossed, face grim but shining with something close to relief. Catelyn Stark pulled back, hands framing Eddard Stark's face with desperate tenderness. "Your leg," Catelyn Stark said, voice breaking. "You're hurt." Eddard Stark nodded slightly. "It will heal," Eddard Stark said, "if infection does not claim it."
Catelyn Stark svalove sob.
"Who did this?"
Catelyn Stark demanded.
"How?" "Varys," Eddard Stark said, and Catelyn Stark stiffened at the name. "Varys smuggled me out." Brynden Tully made a sound like a choke. "The spider," Brynden Tully muttered. "May the gods choke him with his own webs." Eddard Stark's eyes sharpened. "Varys saved my life," Eddard Stark said, "and he swore to watch Sansa Stark."
Catelyn Stark's breath hitched. "Sansa Stark," Catelyn Stark whispered.
"Our sweet girl." Eddard Stark's gaze held hers.
"Arya Stark?"
Eddard Stark asked, voice tight. Catelyn Stark shook her head once, the motion small and helpless. "Arya Stark is missing," Catelyn Stark said. "The Lannisters claim Arya Stark ran. I do not know where Arya Stark is. I only know Arya Stark is not here." Eddard Stark's eyes closed for a heartbeat, pain crossing his face that had nothing to do with his leg. When Eddard Stark opened his eyes again, they were harder. "Robb Stark must not know yet," Eddard Stark said.
Catelyn Stark stared, incredulous.
"Robb Stark thinks you're dead," Catelyn Stark said. "Robb Stark is half mad with it." Eddard Stark nodded once. "Which is why Robb Stark must not howl my name across the camps," Eddard Stark said. "Not until you and I decide how." Catelyn Stark's hands tightened on Eddard Stark's shoulders. "How do we decide?" Catelyn Stark whispered, voice shaking. "How do we do anything when everything is fire?"
Eddard Stark leaned closer, bandages brushing Catelyn Stark. es cheek.
We do it together, Eddard Stark said. And we do it quickly. Brynden Tully stepped forward, voice blunt. Robb Stark's lords are talking of crowning Robb Stark, Brynden Tully said. They heard you were dead, and they want a king to avenge you. Catelyn Stark's eyes widened. No, Catelyn Stark whispered.
Robb Stark.
Eddard Stark's jaw set. Robb Stark is not a king, Eddard Stark said. Robb Stark is my son. And Robb Stark must hold to law, or we become rebels with no end.
Catelyn Stark stared at Eddard Stark, trembling.
Law? Catelyn Stark whispered, and the words sounded fragile now. After what they did to you, after what they did to us. Eddard Stark's eyes burned. Law is the weapon they stole from us, Eddard Stark said. I will take it back. Catelyn Stark let out a shaky breath. Then tell me, Catelyn Stark said, voice fierce, wiping tears with the back of her hand. Tell me what you need. Eddard Stark's gaze locked on hers. I need Robb Stark, Eddard Stark said. I need the North, Eddard Stark said. And I need Sansa Stark alive. Catelyn Stark nodded, the motion sharp. Then we move, Catelyn Stark said. Outside the window, the river kept whispering, endless and cold, as if warning them that every secret carried downstream eventually, unless held with iron hands. Robb Stark's war tent smelled of leather, sweat, and ink. Maps lay spread across a table, corners weighed down with daggers. A helm rested on a chair like a severed head. The lantern light threw long shadows that made every pole and rope look like a gallows. Robb Stark stood over the map, one hand planted hard, the other clenched. The boy Catelyn Stark remembered, grinning, wind-burnt, eager, was gone. In his place stood a young man with grief welded to him like armor. Gray wind prowled near the tent flap, huge and silent, eyes like cold moons. The direwolf's ears flicked when Catelyn Stark entered, and Grey Wind's gaze fixed instantly on the hooded figure limping behind her. Great John Umber was inside, massive as a bear, with a beard like brambles and a voice that usually filled rooms even when silent. Roose Bolton stood near the shadows, pale-eyed and still, watching like a man watching blood drip. Robb Stark looked up sharply. "Mother," Robb Stark said. "What is?" Then Robb Stark's gaze landed on the ring, on the gray eyes beneath the hood. Robb Stark's mouth opened, and no sound came out. Eddard Stark lowered the hood fully. For a heartbeat, the tent held its breath. Then Grey Wind made a low sound. Not a growl, not a bark. Something like recognition turned into a warning. The dire wolf stepped forward, sniffed, and pressed its massive head briefly against Eddard Stark's hand, as if confirming what men could not allow themselves to believe. Robb Stark staggered back as if struck. "Father," Robb Stark whispered, and the word cracked. Eddard Stark's voice was rough.
"Robb Stark," Eddard Stark said.
Robb Stark crossed the tent in 2 strides and grabbed Eddard Stark, arms clamping around him with desperate strength. Eddard Stark winced as Robb Stark's grip pressed against his injured leg. Robb Stark felt it and loosened instantly, face twisting with horror. "You're alive," Robb Stark said, voice shaking. "You're alive, Seven Eye."
Catelyn Stark, throat tightened.
She watched her son cling to his father like a drowning man clinging to a plank. The sight made her want to sob and laugh and scream all at once. Great John Umber made a strangled noise. "No," Great John Umber said, as if the word could force reality back into its proper shape. Great John Umber took a step forward, staring. "No, I saw the raven. I heard." Eddard Stark lifted his ringed hand. "A man died in my place," Eddard Stark said. "The realm believes me dead." Roose Bolton's pale eyes narrowed. "Convenient," Roose Bolton said softly, voice like silk pulled over a blade. Robb Stark's head snapped toward Roose Bolton, fury flaring. "Say another word," Robb Stark growled. Eddard Stark's hand lifted slightly. "Enough," Eddard Stark said, and the single word carried the old weight of Winterfell's lord. Robb Stark stilled at once, instinct obeying before pride could argue. Eddard Stark looked around the tent, taking in faces and shadows. "This cannot be shouted," Eddard Stark said. Not yet. Great John Umber's chest heaved. Not shouted. Great John Umber roared, unable to keep quiet even when trying. The gods give us back Eddard Stark and we're meant to whisper? Eddard Stark's gaze held Great John Umber's. If King's Landing learns I live, Eddard Stark said, Sansa Stark dies. The tent went very still. Robb Stark's face went white.
Sansa, Robb Stark whispered. Sansa Stark.
Catelyn Stark reached out, gripping Robb Stark's arm. We keep our voices down, Catelyn Stark said firmly. Great John Umber swallowed, beard shifting. Even Great John Umber could understand hostage logic when it had a child's name. Eddard Stark turned back to Robb Stark. Tell me, Eddard Stark said. What have you done? Robb Stark's throat worked. Jaime Lannister is my prisoner, Robb Stark said. We took him in the Whispering Wood. We broke his host at the camps. Riverrun is freed.
Robb Stark's jaw tightened.
The Riverlands are with us. Eddard Stark's eyes sharpened, pride flickering briefly behind pain. Good, Eddard Stark said. Keep Jaime Lannister alive. Robb Stark nodded hard. I was going to trade him, Robb Stark said, for Sansa Stark, for Arya Stark. Eddard Stark's face tightened at Arya Stark's name, but Eddard Stark nodded. Yes, Eddard Stark said. That is the right instinct. Roose Bolton's voice slid in again, careful. And what of the crown? Roose Bolton asked. The North is howling, my lord. Your death. Roose Bolton stopped, eyes flicking to Eddard Stark's living face. Your supposed death has made them hungry. Robb Stark's shoulders squared, anger and grief mixing. They want to name me king, Robb Stark said, voice low. They say the North will never kneel again. Eddard Stark's gaze held his son's, and it was like looking into a mirror that showed what Eddard Stark's choices had forged. And what do you say? Eddard Stark asked.
Robb Stark swallowed.
I say, Robb Stark's voice wavered. I say I want them to pay. I want King Joffrey Baratheon to choke on what he did. Eddard Stark's expression did not soften. So do I, Eddard Stark said. The admission landed like a stone in water. Even Roose Bolton blinked. Eddard Stark stepped closer, limping, forcing his body to obey his will. But you do not become a king because you are angry, Eddard Stark said. You become a king because you must carry a realm, and that weight crushes boys. Robb Stark's jaw clenched, eyes bright. I'm not a boy, Robb Stark said. Eddard Stark's gaze was iron. You are my son, Eddard Stark said, and you will listen.
Robb Stark's breath shuddered.
Then Robb Stark nodded once, hard. Tell me what to do, Robb Stark whispered. Eddard Stark looked at Catelyn Stark, then at the men in the shadows. First, Eddard Stark said, we choose law. We choose Stannis Baratheon. Great John Umber's eyes widened. Stannis, Great John Umber snarled. That hard bastard? Eddard Stark's voice stayed steady. Stannis Baratheon is Robert B. Baratheon's heir, Eddard Stark said. Joffrey Baratheon is not. Eddard Stark's eyes burned. And I can prove it. Silence fell heavy. Robb Stark stared at his father as if seeing him for the first time. Not the honorable lord who refused to bend, but a man who had been forced to learn that honor could be sharpened into a weapon. Gray wind prowled closer, quiet as winter. Outside the tent, armies waited, hungry for a king. Inside, Eddard Stark began to turn hunger into purpose. They gathered in Riverrun's hall where stone held cool even in summer. The table was scarred from old feasts and old fights, now covered in maps and tokens. Carved horses, bits of colored cloth, a dagger marking a ford. Candles guttered, their smoke curling toward rafters blackened by generations of hearth fire. Edmure Tully leaned over the map with the eagerness of a man who wanted to prove he could be more than the brother who stayed behind. His red beard bristled as he spoke of fords and routes and how to keep the Lannisters from crossing the Trident again. Brynden Tully stood behind Eddard Stark like a watchdog, arms crossed, eyes daring anyone to challenge what stood before them. Catelyn Stark sat near Eddard Stark's left hand, posture rigid, her presence a steadying force. Robb Stark sat at Eddard Stark's right, jaw clenched, eyes fierce. Great Jon Umber loomed like a storm cloud. Rickard Karstark's face was a slab of grief and rage, his eyes haunted by the sons he had lost. Midge Mormont sat with her arms bare and her gaze blunt, a bear of a woman who did not waste time on courtesy. Roose Bolton watched with pale calm, as if assessing how best to survive whatever came next. Theon Greyjoy stood apart, trying to look casual, but his eyes flicked often to Eddard Stark's face, measuring. Through an open doorway, guarded by men with spears, Jaime Lannister sat in chains. Even chained, Jaime Lannister managed a faint smirk, as if captivity were a minor inconvenience. The Kingslayer's golden hair looked out of place in a hall of river stone and northern grimness. Edmure Tully glanced toward Jaime Lannister and spat. "I should hang him," Edmure Tully said. Rickard Karstark's voice was low and deadly. "I should carve him," Rickard Karstark said, and the words were not a threat but a promise. Eddard Stark's voice cut through, steady. "Jaime Lannister lives," Eddard Stark said. Rickard Karstark's head snapped toward Eddard Stark. "You are alive," Rickard Karstark said, as if still testing the miracle. "My sons are not." Eddard Stark met Rickard Karstark's stare without flinching. "And if you kill Jaime Lannister," Eddard Stark said, "Sansa Stark will join your sons in the ground." Rickard Karstark's jaw worked, pain twisting his face. He looked away, fists clenched, swallowing a howl. Midge Mormont's eyes narrowed, approving not of mercy but of clarity. "Hostages," Midge Mormont said. "Aye." Eddard Stark turned to the map. "We have 3 wars," Eddard Stark said, voice low. "One against House Lannister, one against the lie on the Iron Throne, one against time, while my daughters breathe in King's Landing." Great Jon Umber snorted. "And you say we pick Stannis Baratheon?" Great Jon Umber said, bitter. "Why should the North bleed for a Southron king again?" Eddard Stark's eyes burned. "Because if we crown Robb Stark," Eddard Stark said, "we make ourselves rebels in the eyes of every lord who still clings to the Iron Throne's idea. We fracture the realm into pieces that will never fit again." Eddard Stark's hand tightened on the table edge. "And because Stannis Baratheon is the law." Roose Bolton's pale gaze flicked. "Law did not save you," Roose Bolton observed softly. Eddard Stark's mouth became thin. "No," Eddard Stark said, "but it can damn them." Theon Greyjoy finally spoke, voice light, trying to cut tension with charm. "Stannis Baratheon is a hard man," Theon Greyjoy said. "He'll want the North on its knees." Eddard Stark's eyes slid to Theon Greyjoy. "The North will not kneel to a bastard boy king," Eddard Stark said. "But the North has sworn before to House Baratheon under Robert Baratheon. Stannis Baratheon will be owed, yes. And Stannis Baratheon will owe us in return." Catelyn Stark leaned forward. "Terms," Catelyn Stark said. "We need terms."
Eddard Stark nodded.
"Yes," Eddard Stark said. "We will offer Stannis Baratheon our swords, on conditions." Eddard Stark's gaze swept the hall. Safe return of Sansa Stark. Effort to find Arya Stark. Public proclamation of Joffrey Baratheon's illegitimacy. Trial for Cersei Lannister. Trial for those who betrayed the king's peace. Edmure Tully inhaled sharply. "Trial," Edmure Tully repeated. "You think you can put lions in a courtroom?" Eddard Stark's voice did not waver. "I can put them on their knees," Eddard Stark said. Jaime Lannister's laugh drifted from the doorway, soft and mocking. "I'd pay to see that," Jaime Lannister drawled. Brynden Tully's hand went to his sword hilt. "Shut him up," Brynden Tully snapped. A guard shoved Jaime Lannister back, and the Kingslayer's smirk only widened. Midge Mormont's gaze stayed on Eddard Stark. "And the Vale?" Midge Mormont asked. "Lisa Arryn sits behind her mountains while we bleed." Catelyn Stark's face tightened at her sister's name. Eddard Stark's eyes narrowed. "The Vale remembers Jon Arryn," Eddard Stark said. "And the Vale remembers me." Eddard Stark's voice turned colder. We will remind them harder. Brynden Tully's mouth twisted. Lysa Arryn fears shadows, Brynden Tully said, and Peter Baelish whispers to her. At Peter Baelish's name, Eddard Stark's hands curled. Betrayal flashed hot behind his eyes, then settled into something harder. Then we pull the Whisperer into daylight, Eddard Stark said. The hall went quiet. Robb Stark looked at his father, and something in Robb Stark's face shifted, from grief-driven fury into fierce, disciplined purpose. Tell me how, Robb Stark said. Eddard Stark looked at the map, at the rivers, at the roads, at the tokens representing men who would die if moved wrongly. We send ravens, Eddard Stark said. We send riders. Eddard Stark's voice lowered. And we send promises that taste like vengeance but read like law. The firelight flickered across faces. Wolf, fish, bear, flayed man, kraken, houses bound together not by love, but by the shared certainty that King's Landing had become an enemy of the realm itself. The Maester's tower smelled of ink, parchment, and old stone. Comforting scents, in a way, because they belonged to the world where words mattered. Eddard Stark sat at the desk with his leg propped carefully, the pain dulled by herbs but never gone. Maester Vyman stood nearby, hands folded, eyes wide with the controlled disbelief of a man who had built his life on knowledge and now faced a knowledge that should not exist. Catelyn Stark stood by the window, fingers pressed to the stone sill. Outside, the river ran around Riverrun, constant as a heartbeat. Robb Stark lurked in the shadows near the door, sword belt in his hands as if holding steel could keep the world from slipping away again. Eddard Stark dipped the quill and wrote the first letter with careful precision. To Stannis Baratheon, Eddard Stark wrote, "By the grace of law and blood, rightful heir." Eddard Stark's mouth tightened as the words formed. The same words Eddard Stark had tried to send from King's Landing before betrayal closed around him. This time, Eddard Stark wrote with the cold clarity of a man who had died and returned with fewer illusions. Eddard Stark sealed the letter with wax and pressed the direwolf ring hard into it. The imprint came out clean, a wolf's head biting. Next, Eddard Stark wrote to Lysa Arryn, Lady of the Eyrie, naming Jon Arryn not as a political figure but as kin of the heart. Jon Arryn raised Eddard Stark. Eddard Stark wrote, "Jon Arryn loved the Vale. Jon Arryn died in poison and lies." Catelyn Stark's shoulders tightened at the words poison and lies. She did not turn, but Eddard Stark knew Catelyn Stark was thinking of Lysa Arryn's fear letter, the one that had dragged House Stark into the southern snare. Eddard Stark wrote anyway because truth, wielded correctly, could be sharper than steel. He wrote to White Harbor next, to Wyman Manderley, commanding quiet loyalty and readiness. He wrote to Winterfell, to Maester Luwin, instructing watchfulness and secrecy, though Eddard Stark did not know if the Raven would reach safely, or what Winterfell looked like now that Eddard Stark was dead to the realm. Finally, Eddard Stark wrote a short letter meant for no Raven at all, only for hands. A set of terms, blunt and uncompromising, to be spoken to Stannis Baratheon's envoys if and when they came. Return Sansa Stark.
Sieg Arya Stark.
Put Joffrey Baratheon's bastardy to the realm. Try Cersei Lannister. Spare the small folk where possible. Confirm northern rights and river protections. Catelyn Stark turned from the window then, eyes shining with fierce purpose. You think Stannis Baratheon will agree? Catelyn Stark asked.
Eddard Stark, gaze lifted.
Stannis Baratheon will agree to what he must, Eddard Stark said. Stannis Baratheon wants the throne. Stannis Baratheon will need the North and the Riverlands to take it. Robb Stark stepped forward, voice low. And if Stannis Baratheon refuses? Robb Stark asked. If Stannis Baratheon demands my knee, and offers nothing for Sansa Stark? Eddard Stark's eyes hardened. Then we bleed the lions ourselves, Eddard Stark said, and the realm learns the cost of ignoring law. Maester Vyman cleared his throat, trembling slightly. My lord, Maester Vyman said, if word reaches King's Landing that Eddard Stark lives, it will not, Catelyn Stark said sharply. Eddard Stark held up a hand, calming. It might, Eddard Stark admitted. which is why we move before rumors can grow teeth. A raven flapped in its cage, restless, sensing travel and message. Eddard Stark looked at the bird and thought of Sansa Stark under lion claws. Eddard Stark thought of Arya Stark on a road, hungry and hard. Eddard Stark thought of King Joffrey Baratheon smiling as a sword fell. Eddard Stark's fingers tightened around the direwolf ring. "I am dead," Eddard Stark said quietly. "The realm must keep believing it until the moment it hurts them most." Catelyn Stark's voice was fierce and trembling. "And when is that moment?" Catelyn Stark asked. Eddard Stark's gaze went to the dark window, to the river's black flow, to the unseen roads beyond Riverrun where armies moved like storms. "When the Vale opens its gates," Eddard Stark said. "When Stannis Baratheon raises his banner with the north beneath it." Eddard Stark's voice turned colder. "When King's Landing thinks it has won." Robb Stark swallowed, eyes bright. "Then you will return," Robb Stark said. Eddard Stark nodded once. "Then Eddard Stark rises," Eddard Stark said. "And the realm learns what it means to execute a man and leave his wolf alive." Eddard Stark sealed the last letter and set it among the others like a row of daggers laid neatly for a fight. Outside, the river ran. Inside, Eddard Stark's war began in ink because steel was coming, and Eddard Stark intended to make it serve judgment, not chaos. And far to the south, in a city that believed Eddard Stark's head had rotted on a spike, Sansa Stark breathed under a queen's smile, unaware that the dead could still write.